Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching second and final part of What If Hinata Destroyed Sasuke for Naruto after Sasuke Retrieval arc. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
Naruto got up and put Hinata's feet on the floor to stand, but she just stood there looking at him longingly, blushing slightly. You know, Hinata, you are still very cute with that blush, but we are definitely going to have to spend a lot of time together to get you healthy again so we can spar. He leaned a little closer to her ear so that only she could hear him. Yeah, now just shut it. Let's get going. He grinned at her and leaned in to kiss her before taking her hand and trailing Tsunade down the hall to the conference room. And maybe if I get injured, you can give me one of those massages again. With the exception of Hinata, who sat on Naruto's lap and put her arms around his neck, they all took a set at one of the chairs. Actually, they only had to wait 20 minutes before Shizune, the Hokage's assistant, entered the conference room. As Shizune saw the blonde sitting in the room, her voice trailed off. Tsunade-sama, Hyuga Hiashi and the entire Hyuga Council are here too, Naruto-kun, but how? Tsunade interrupted, saying, bring Hiashi in, Shizune, now isn't the time for that. After giving a nod, Shizune departed and returned a short while later with Hiashi and the council. With rage in his eyes, Naruto pulled Hinata closer to him and said, Hokage-sama, I demand that worthless Hyuga over there be returned to the manor at once. He said calmly, in a tone that promised pain, I told you once and I won't say it again, if you enjoy walking, call her by her name. He is right, she shall be referred as Hinata, and he will be referred as Naruto. No exceptions now. What is the basis of this meeting? Asked the Hokage. I challenge the validity that this boy has a contract for the female Hyuga's hand in marriage. Hiashi took out the little scroll and gave it to Tsunade for confirmation. I understand that the document in question was signed in blood, therefore no forgeries can be done. Since this is the case, it will be easy to validate. Where is the document? Hiashi asked after she made a few hand signals. The document began to glow blue. Naruto poked his finger and let the blood fall. Now, Naruto, put a drop of your blood next to the scroll. If it glows like the scroll, it is a match. It began to glow as soon as it settled down next to the document. The contract is still in force because Naruto is the one who signed it, as confirmed. Very well, she will accept disownment in the caged bird seal, and then you can have her, Hiashi replied. That is unacceptable, the contract, and I will be satisfied if she marries me and becomes my heir. If you people are allowed to keep another generation of that foolish, savage seal, I'll be damned. Your kids don't need constant discipline and training. They need love because you disapproved of Hinata's compassion. You ultimately forced her to become an extremely timid and insecure person. If she didn't hold back out of fear of hurting you, I'd bet she could even beat you. I've fought her and lost. We will restore your messed up clan to its proper state as a family, with her as the heir and me as the future Hokage. Well, if that's your plan, I'm forced to use an ancient law that was made by a Hokage and takes precedence over all other documents. It declares that, absent a unanimous council vote, only the firstborn of a Hokage may wed the firstborn of the Hyuga. The part we like best, though, is that it also says that if just one clan council member rejects a previous vote, it can be overturned, nullifying the marriage contract that was made. Hiashi stood and told Hinata to follow him, but the blonde Hokage interrupted him with wild laughter. Therefore, I will never vote to keep the contract intact, so the contract is null and void. You should have taken the offer I gave you, boy. You are aware that that document contains no additional provisions and only applies to the firstborn and heir, correct? Oh my god, Hiashi. You just destroyed your damn seal. You publicly recognized her as the heir and firstborn child. Her wild laughter made the couple smile because they knew she was concealing something that would make everything better. What are you discussing? The head of the clan demanded. Now, let's play a hypothetical game. If you were the Hokage and the only way to keep the entire village safe was to kill yourself and disown your only child, would you do it to keep your clan and the village safe? Tsunade inquired. The village would undoubtedly survive, and the child would too. But what is that even related to? It is entirely related to it. Therefore, 4 children were born within 12 hours of the Kyuubi attack. If my memory serves me correctly now, if the Hokage didn't want to put the burden on his own son, how could he sacrifice one child over the others? The implication of her words caused the majority of the room to go wide-eyed. Hiashi exclaimed in surprise, you can't be implying what I think you are. No, I'm confirming it, not hinting at it. Tsunade cleared her throat as if she were preparing a statement, saying, by the power granted to me by the village of Konoha, I hereby accept the marriage of Hyuga Hinata, the undeniable heir of the Hyuga clan, to Uzumaki Naruto, the only son of the Yondaime Hokage. He was supposed to be told by his 18th birthday, but I guess you forced me to step it forward a few months. According to Hyuga law, Hinata will start to assume leadership of the clan at the age of 18 and be the complete heir by the time she is 20. She will have the last word in any sealings involving your cursed seal because she is the heir. Do you have any objections? The Hyuga council members all hung their heads in defeat, unable to oppose the Hokage. No, none of us are able to. This is the way things have to be. I apologize on behalf of the council for our actions, Hinata-sama, and I fully support you. You are not to approach Hinata-sama or her fiancé Naruto-sama. Hiashi-sama. When they drugged Hiashi out of the conference room, leaving a silent blonde with his jaw still lowered, the council speaker gave the order, doing so will be your downfall. Are you okay, Naruto-kun? Hello, are you there, Naruto-kun? Hinata said, pressing her future husband's jaw shut. Since she was still not receiving a response, she took drastic measures. Grinning, she took his breath and kissed him for a long, passionate moment, and when they parted ways, they were both gasping for air. Ba-chan? My dear, keep quiet for now, let it be. I don't want to be left out, but I'm too exhausted to listen to you ask more questions. After getting some rest, we can come back tomorrow. Alright, Angel. Hello. Ba-chan, would you be able to spare a couple Anbu to watch over her room in case something goes wrong? As she was about to begin her hunt for some sake, Tsunade simply nodded and waved them away. As the engaged couple made their way back to the Hyuga manor through the dimly lit streets of Konoha, they were met with smiles from most of the Hyuga, particularly those from the branch family. They said goodbye to each other when they reached their rooms and went to bed. Naruto spent the last 2 hours lying awake in his room with Ranto, reflecting on everything that had happened that day, until the door opened and he was awakened. I can't sleep, and Naruto-kun, can I? Is it possible for me to sleep here? If that's what she needs to sleep well, he was a little taken aback by the request. I suppose it's alright, we're engaged anyhow. Naruto moved to the edge of the bed to make room for Hinata, who was still uncomfortable with the more than 1 foot distance between them and desired to be much closer, to occupy the other bed in her lavender silk nightgown. Do you think you could touch me, Naruto-kun? Naruto's eyes widened when she posed the query. What? What? At that moment, she sought to rectify the statement after realizing its alternative meaning. I can't sleep, because if this is a dream, I don't ever want to wake up, she said, sobbing once more. And no, not L like that, I'd enjoy that too much. No, I mean, what I meant was, I'm afraid this is all a dream and that when I wake up it will all be gone. Just hold me until I get up, please. He turned to face her, put his arms around her, drew her in, and kissed the tears from her eyes. As she rested her head on his chest, he gave her another kiss on the lips and gave her a tight hug, saying, don't worry, this isn't a dream, and I won't go anywhere, my beautiful angel. Good night, Hinata-chan. I guess tonight I will be your angel like you were to me, he said, and he too fell asleep quickly. Konoha, from June 10th to June 18th. Even some of the ninjas awake that morning felt that something had changed, that everything just felt right. Konoha was suddenly bathed in brilliant shades of orange as the sun cast its life-giving light upon the village, and the village seemed a bit cheerier this day as the birds sang a happy tune no one had heard in a long time. A blonde shinobi was awakened by the sun's rays pouring through a room's lone window in the Hyuga manor. I feel happy. I feel like running and jumping about the village screaming at the top of my lungs. But why am I this happy? I've never felt this way before, Naruto said, trying to sit up but being held down by a weight. Where am I? He asked himself, scanning the far-off but still familiar room before focusing on the slender figure of the person who was putting the weight on his chest. He then saw Hinata beginning to stir, though it actually appeared more like trembling, and he saw tears streaming from her closed eyes as he looked at her now exposed face. Hinata, you have always been my source of happiness. I will never let you go until the day I die from old age, this I promise you. Why am I destined to be without you, Naruto-kun? She muttered softly while she slept, causing Naruto to cry when he saw how deeply his actions had wounded his angel. He gently urged her to wake up, saying, Hinata-chan, wake up. Hinata, I really am here. Wake up, angel. Her watery lavender eyes slowly opened as a broad smile appeared on her face, and she suddenly leapt on top of him, kissing every inch of his face. I've waited to tell you this for so long, Naruto, I love you. Hinata happily claimed his lips as her own before he could finish. I love you too, Hinata MMPF. He was taken aback by this new behavior, but found it to be quite soothing. And I thought nothing could taste better than ramen, he thought, before giving the heiress a full-force kiss, much to the delight of the now quietly moaning heiress, before a sudden intrusion was made. When Neji saw his cousin, who had barely been able to walk the day before, completely engrossed in making out with someone and even on top of him, his eyes widened. Hinata-sama, you weren't in your room so I thought you might be in. Hinata, still wearing clothes, covered herself with the sheets in shock at the intrusion. "Neji ni-san." She yelled in embarrassment. "Hey Neji, you just broke off Konoha's greatest kiss ever." An irate blonde who was staring down at him yelled. "What?" was all that was said before Neji fell face first into the food, his eyes rolling into the back of his head, and he dropped the tray of food he was carrying. Naruto laughed and turned to face the very red girl. She laughed softly as he joked, "Well, I guess your breakfast is ruined, plus I think the seasoning is just a little sour." "He is no longer that horrible, what?" Given that Naruto was looking at her, she inquired. He leaned in as if to kiss her, but when she closed her eyes, he shifted and licked the tip of her nose instead. "Well, it's I never have really seen you laugh. You do it so beautifully." She was still flushed from his remark. "I guess it will be my personal mission to make sure I hear that beautiful laughter every day of my life." She laughed and said, "Hey Naruto-kun, that was mean, I was expecting a kiss." "Yes, but didn't you still find it enjoyable?" She said calmly, not understanding what it might mean. "Well, I guess I would like anything you do to me." "Well Hinata, I see you have been much more confident in yourself these days." "What are you saying?" "Well, yesterday you said I could touch you wherever I want, last night you said that you would enjoy it if I touched you, and just now you said you would like anything I do to you." "Ah, I didn't mean it, I meant that I guess I Shush, don't rush things. I know you meant everything you said. It might take some time before I'm ready because I'm still working through the memories of two people, okay?" "No, it's not acceptable. Before things got serious, I tried the slow approach and lost both of them. I won't wait for you for too long before I lose my mind and take you myself, okay?" "Alright, I understand your point. I'll work things out quickly, and you can then proceed with the relationship at your own pace." He pushed her to her room and kissed her to give her more motivation, and she left with a joyful, elated expression on her face, not even realizing she was walking on top of Neji as she did so. "Now, let's get ready to find some breakfast." Naruto began searching through the room's wardrobe, but he only found black clothing. Black, of course, looks black even when color is invisible, and he pulled out some clothes that matched his own, bringing them with him to change into. After taking a shower, when he emerged from the shower, he discovered that Neji was only now awakening, and he still had to laugh when he saw him lying there. "How is your breakfast going, Neji? What's up?" he smiled as he asked. "How?" That was his only answer. "I'll explain later. Get your girlfriend and guy to the conference room in the tower by noon." He defended himself by saying, "Hey, I don't have a girlfriend." "Indeed, you don't? Just make sure you get Guy and your weapons mistress there," Naruto said, stepping around the reddening Hyuga to meet his lovely girl, who was grinning at him from the doorway. "Well, Hinata-chan, if you don't mind, I haven't been to Ichiraku's in more than 4 years, Naruto said. "It may not be the healthiest, but it sure is good." Naruto grabbed Hinata's hand and rushed out of the manor, not caring about his speed or what he was doing, until he saw Hinata's breathing was labored and he stopped. "Hinata, are you okay?" "Yes, but you are moving too fast for me." Hinata simply gestured to the manor behind her, saying, "I wasn't moving that fast." Naruto then realized they had already crossed halfway to the village. "I suppose I was going a bit quicker than I had anticipated. I would have arrived much sooner if I had known I could run that quickly earlier." Naruto began to move once more before Hinata stopped him. Actually they moved to a larger location. They are actually known as one of the best restaurants in Konoha now." "Really? Now, where are they?" "Actually they are behind us." Naruto turned to face the enormous restaurant behind him, which had grown by almost 10 times in size. "Whoa, that's huge. I thought they may have lost business after I left." Naruto simply grinned and ushered her into the restaurant, saying, "It probably would have, but since you left, and I guess died, almost every ninja comes here for some reason." "Hi, old man." The majority of the customers dropped their eating utensils in shock as he yelled this as soon as he entered the building. The young girl behind the counter, who hardly gave the newcomers a glance, said sweetly, "I'm sorry, sir, you'll have to keep it down, and father hates it when he's called old man." The girl looked up when Hinata was greeted, "Hi Ayame-chan." Ayame saw her slender figure and said, "Hinata-chan. You aren't looking too well. Haven't you eaten recently?" "Not really. After Ranto died I probably didn't eat anything at all," she said in a very dejected tone. "Oh, you took it real hard, didn't you? I never got to meet him though." "Yeah, he wasn't here long, but he is in a very good place now." Ayame scowled when that was mentioned, but was somewhat taken aback to see Hinata grinning. "Well, that's good in a way. We don't really have any open tables right now. All that is here is the reserved one, and you know the story behind that one." "Why are you smiling, Hinata-chan?" "Well, it's just that my new fiancé and I will gladly take that table then." Huh, what? You can't be serious. You know that no one sits at that table. Wait, fiancé? You're getting married again? Who won you over so soon? It took you forever to find someone after Naruto. Well, I'm sure my fiancé is the exception to that table rule, and for who? He is the one about to yell again. Naruto screamed impatiently as usual. Hey old man, you're getting slow in your old age. I need 15 bowls of your finest. Ayame was beginning to connect the dots. Hinata-chan, are you sure you want to marry that loud-mouthed blonde? Wait, loud, blonde? Who the hell is calling me old? I'm Konoha's best chef, an elderly man yelled as he bounded out of the kitchen. Naruto grinned broadly as Hinata burst out laughing, saying, damn, if you took any longer, I might have died a third time, but this time by hunger. Ignoring the irate blonde jumping at his side, Tucci asked, Hinata-chan, am I seeing things? No, you aren't seeing things, that is Naruto-kun. But, I saw his body, it was my fault old man, I messed up a jutsu and ruined Hinata's life, but enough about that, she needs some food now, she needs to get her awesome figure back. Being skinnier than Ino just isn't natural. Did he just say that my figure was flawless? Hinata jolted herself out of her reverie and dragged Naruto to the empty table. Yes, I meant to change the word. Hey old man, you coming or am I going to go and try to cook Hinata something myself? Oh yeah, sorry, what'll you have? He looked to Hinata and said courteously, I'll start with 15 bowls of your best ramen. Hinata nodded and started to give instructions, saying, now, Angel, don't try to be all proper around here, you need lots of food, so you aren't leaving here until you are stuffed. I'll take some biscuits with some sweet bean jam and I'll take 3 bowls of beef ramen, and I'll finish it off with a side of rice. Still grinning, Naruto said, hey old man, make sure that she gets extra meat in hers, she needs the protein for her muscles. In an attempt to mimic the blonde's smile, Tucci said, sure thing, is there anything you like better than ramen Naruto? As Hinata choked on the water she was attempting to drink, he said, a little embarrassed, well yeah, come to think of it, I think Hinata's kisses taste much better. As Tucci dropped his notebook as if he had just passed away, Ayame simply grinned. Tucci shook his head and went to the kitchen to make the enormous lunch that had been ordered. What, I think they do alright. Now just get cooking. By the time they finished their meal and gave a brief explanation of the messed up jutsu, it was around 11 o'clock. Both of them eventually left fully stuffed and without spending a dime. Hinata glanced at him and saw the expression on his face. Hey Hinata-chan, I think it's about time to round up the others. Do you think you can get a message out to Sakura and Ino's team? I'll take care of the rest. Sure, I'll take care of it, but don't get them too wound up. They kissed each other and left to pick up the other friends. Don't worry, it'll be worth it. While Kurenai watched from a distance, Naruto encountered Kiba and Shino training. Naruto's initial goal was to locate the obnoxious green-clad training monster. He didn't have a plan for them, so he decided to leave a message. He crept up on her and gave her a silent shoulder tap. Frightening her to no end, she saw only a message when she turned. According to the message, bring Bug Boy and Dog Breath to the conference room in the Hokage Tower for a meeting by noon. In an attempt to understand how a freaking Jonin could ambush her, she pocketed the note but dismissed it. Naruto kept looking until he unexpectedly stumbled upon the dark-haired Uchiha. They welcomed you back with open arms. No doubt about it, but have you really changed? Naruto fled using his speed and a weak, undetectable genjutsu that Jiraiya had been using for research. Man, I'm going to haunt your ass. Sasuke, he muttered, as if his voice were carried by the wind once more. He whispered, Sasuke. To get his attention he whispered again, Sasuke, as a gust of wind blew through his hair, sending shivers down his spine. Sasuke was annoyed that he was still unable to sense anyone. Why, Sasuke, was said once more in a whisper. The Uchiha looked everywhere for the voice's bearer and asked, who's there? The answer was a whisper, you killed me. What do you mean? You killed your friend for power. Fearfully, he said, and Naruto? Once more, the spectral voice said, you killed me and insulted the one that cared for me the most. Who are you talking about? Hinata, he asked, his expression bewildered. Why, Naruto exclaimed once more. Sasuke screamed into the air, why what? As onlookers gave him a weird look. Why did you hurt her like that? She never did anything to you. Why? Sasuke yelled in response to the incessant questions that were driving him uncontrollably. As he collapsed to the ground, his eyes closed and his head grasped in an attempt to ward off the spirit, he screamed, it was the only way I could cope. Alright, I never wanted to kill the one person. Might have known how I felt. I wanted to kill my brother, but ended up killing the person I had closest to that, so what do you want me to do? With that last word, the wind subsided and it vanished. Apologize to her, Apologize in front of everyone. They'll all be at the Hokage Tower by noon, go. As he laughed at Sasuke's response, Naruto thought, alright, maybe a little too far, but at least I know I didn't sacrifice myself for nothing, now wears bushy brows. It was surprising to learn that the mighty last Uchiha had a fear of ghosts. Naruto was still searching for his friends when he noticed the green ninja running. With just 5 minutes until noon, he decided to try out his new speed. After a brief henge and ran up to Lee. Naruto grinned and said, hey, you're pretty fast, care for a race? Yash, the spirit of youth will propel me to victory. If I do not win, I will run 20 laps around Konoha on my knees. If I can't do that, yeah, whatever race you to Hokage Tower. You're on. Naruto followed closely behind Lee as he took off in a cloud of smoke. When Naruto paid attention to his speed, he was truly astounded by it. He smiled at Lee after catching up to him. As he passed Lee, he shouted, can't you go faster? I'm barely breaking a sweat here. I shall show you the power of my youth. Lee sped past in a dust cloud, putting it in full swing. With the amount of dust being picked up, it appeared as though 2 twisters were tearing through the village. I think he has gotten faster. Let's see how much speed I gained as well. After catching up to Lee once more, Naruto realized he still had a lot of speed left. Lee saw nothing but a tornado of dust before he said, I guess you won't win since you are still wearing your weights. Too bad, I'll race you again, okay? He screamed, still on his way to the tower. What great speed! His youth burns brightly. Lee found the entire group at the tower. A short while later, a larger green-clad ninja noticed him as he screamed, Yash, the youthful power has attracted everyone here at once. Lee, Gai-sensei. Lee, Gai-sensei. Sakura cracked her knuckles and yelled, you two knock it off and get up here before I smash you both through the wall. As everyone fled in full retreat into the tower. Everyone went into the conference room. The only people who weren't there were Konohamaru's team. And naturally Kakashi, who was always late anyway, because they were on a mission with Iruka filling in, as well as those who were already familiar with the previous night's story. This is one of only 2 genjutsu he will know. It basically causes someone to not pay attention to the person, almost thinking they're not there. When they took their seats, most of them gasped when they said Hinata looked so thin. Hinata was already in the room when they arrived, and with the little genjutsu, they didn't even notice Naruto was in there as well. Sakura, obviously worried, said, Hinata, what the hell happened to you? You don't look so good. Yeah, you're too thin, and coming from me that isn't good, Ino replied. Yeah, I took Rantu's death really hard. I didn't leave my room at all, not even to eat, so that is how I got so thin. I just gave up on life until I found a reason to live again. Also, my clan wanted to put the caged bird seal on me, but at my age there was only a 33% chance of survival, and that was on a perfectly healthy person. They were basically sentencing me to death in the state I was in, and if I did survive I would have nearly been a slave, she explained as a few of the others became frustrated. Kiba yelled, oh, hell no, I wouldn't allow it, right Akamaru? Hinata told him, that is very kind of you to say, Kiba-kun, but that was yesterday. As Sakura asked, you mean you could have been dead already and we wouldn't have known? How are you okay and without the seal then? Suddenly, a dark-haired man emerged from the door. Hearing that voice, everyone turned to the door to see Sasuke standing there, saying, I'm glad you were okay, Hinata. They all said, Sasuke? At once, not thinking he would say anything like that. Hinata scowled at him angrily and said, what are you doing here, Sasuke? You weren't invited. Before Sasuke resumed his speech, she thought, I hope you know what you're doing, Naruto-kun. This is very hard for me to say, Hinata, I apologize. After Naruto's plan, she asked, apologizing for what exactly? Hinata's frown changed to a smile as she said, I apologize for bad-mouthing Naruto when he didn't deserve it, and to you for thinking you were weak for loving him. She completely surprised him by saying, thank you, Sasuke-kun, you really have changed for the better, you may stay. He asked incredulously. Sakura yanked Sasuke-kun into the chair beside her so Hinata could continue, screaming, damn it, Sasuke-kun. Sit your ass down, you're interrupting the story. Well, before getting the seal, we found there was an old Hyuga law that basically states if the heir of our clan agrees to marry the firstborn of a Hokage, then there is no way the clan council deny the marriage nor strip the status from the heir. The lazy Chunin, who was now genuinely interested in the story, asked, where are you going to find a firstborn of a Hokage? Either they're too old or don't exist? I didn't have to find one. He found me. He came in and threatened each of the Hyuga council with death if they were to touch me from that point forward. Hiashi-sama did nothing. Asked a shocked Neji, who had taken off to avoid seeing what had happened to her but knew that Naruto would be the subject of a major revelation because he had seen him earlier. No, they couldn't. Each one had a powerful jutsu pointed at them. Lee stood up and struck his good guy pose, shouting, "All right, another powerful rival. I shall challenge him to a contest of youthfulness." With a shout, "Go for it, Lee!" Guy returned the pose. Hinata smiled and said, Lee-san, you already lost a race to him earlier." "What?" they all cried out at once. Tenten asked incredulously, "He's faster than Lee." "He was told to stop talking before he got too carried away." "I'm afraid so. His youthful power outshined mine this day, but I shall challenge him again, and if I do not beat him I will," said everyone. "Well, okay, but what does he look like? Whose son is he? Can you actually marry him so soon? Do you even like him?" asked Ino. Hinata went on, receiving only a nod of understanding. "We really only found out about who his father was yesterday, and it is still a village secret, so you can't tell anyone about it. Well, I can say that I love him with all my heart. There could never be a person in existence that could come close to the feelings I have for him. He is kind, handsome, cares for everyone, and won't let anything happen to ones he cares about if he can. Most of all, he is intelligent and strong, and is the son of the Yondaime Hokage," she said in a somewhat ethereal voice. "What? The fourth never had a son? Well, I never heard of one, and you're saying you love this guy more than Naruto? I can't believe that," Sakura screamed with a bit of rage. "You never knew he was the fourth son. None of us knew at birth. His name was changed to protect him from enemies of the Hokage. As it stands, he is the only living hero of Konoha and is a greater hero than even the fourth." The pink-haired medic exclaimed, "Are you crazy, Hinata? The Yondaime was the greatest hero in Konoha's history." "No, Sakura, the Yondaime only gave his life to protect the village. His son gave every second of his entire life in the protection of this village and is still doing it to this day. Always eager to be, well, Sakura," she repeated, "but how can a person protect a village when he was a baby?" With his back to the group, Naruto said, drawing attention to himself, "That's easy, Sakura-chan." "What the hell? Who are you and when did you get here?" With his back to the group, he approached Hinata and surprised everyone by giving her a long kiss. "I've been here from the start." Still not facing the room, he peered out the window and went on. "The only way for a child to protect a village is if something dangerous is sealed inside of him." Sakura asked again, "You mean like a demon, like what was inside Naruto?" "Yes, actually exactly like Naruto. I have a being of immense power locked inside of me. My father could have chosen any of the other children born that day, but he could never ask anyone to give their child to hold this burden if he could do it to his own. This is why the most powerful demon was sealed in me. It isn't because of this reason that Hinata loves me. It is actually because I contain every quality Naruto and Ranto ever had. I'm still confused with some parts of my heritage, but that I can find later." Sakura pounded her fist threateningly into the palm of her other hand, saying, "Okay, that's all well and good, but the Kyuubi is the strongest of the demons. So who are you? You better answer or I'll bash your face in." "Whatever, wouldn't be the first time, but my demon isn't stronger than the Kyuubi, because it is the Kyuubi. I guess you can call me Uzumaki Naruto." The brunette turned to face the room. A girl's scream was heard abruptly. "Ah, a ghost. Ah." Before Sasuke collapsed to the ground, Naruto said, Sasuke-chan? You okay?" After hearing Sasuke scream like a girl, Hinata was having a hard time holding back her laughter. "I think I may have overdone that prank earlier, Hinata-chan." When Hinata saw that expression, she said, "Naruto-kun, I don't think Sakura likes the female Sasuke. You might want to run." When he was not looking, Sakura gave him a full-on punch to the stomach, saying, "What do you mean, Hinata? Oof." Naruto. He stifled a laugh as he said, "Easy there, Sakura-chan. Cough. It isn't my fault Sasuke is afraid of ghosts. Sasuke-kun isn't afraid of anything. Besides, how are you alive?" He glanced around the room and noticed that everyone was pale and staring with eerie eyes. "Well, that is a weird story. Hey, is everyone still conscious?" he asked. "I guess they're all shocked." With calmness, Neji said, "I'm still alert, Naruto." "Oh, I didn't notice you. You were always pale and looking around with those creepy eyes." Neji questioned in an uncharacteristically Hyuga way. "Naruto, you idiot. My eyes are identical to Hinata's. Are you saying she is creepy too?" No, her eyes are gentle and cute. Yours are nowhere near the same. She is a bit weird though." With a hint of sadness, Hinata asked, "You still think I'm weird?" "Yep, about as weird as they come. But why Naruto-kun?" Naruto walked over to her and licked the tip of her nose once more, evoking the same laugh from before. "Well, you do seem to like this." Sakura yelled, "Ew. Naruto. Hinata surprised him once more by pulling him into a deep kiss. What? See, she liked it. I think we are the perfect weird couple. Right, Hinata MMPF? As everyone recovered from the shock, a chorus of AWWS and Get a Room was heard. Breaking the kiss, Hinata sat down on Naruto's lap once more and buried her face in his neck as he stroked her back and gave the group an explanation. Hinata sighed contentedly and went to sleep. The slender blonde remarked, "This is weird, Naruto." "What do you mean, Ino?" "Well, it is just that we haven't seen you acknowledge Hinata before, and here you are clearly in love with her. It is just strange." "I guess I see what you're saying. I did notice her, but I never noticed what she actually meant to me until a while later." Also, Rantu's feelings for her uncovered mine further when his experiences retuned after the jutsu was cancelled. "I just wish I didn't hurt her so bad. It'll be a long while before she gets closer to normal." At that point he felt a gentle tug on the back of his neck. She kissed his neck once more while he was mostly asleep and then went back to sleep, telling him, "Just stay close to me and I should be fine." They had a lot of questions, and Naruto answered them all before the group began to grow hungry because it was almost 5 o'clock. He made the decision to wake Hinata since he believed she had gotten enough sleep for the time being. He shook her body gently and whispered, "It's time to wake up, Angel." She slowly woke up and grinned at being in his lap. When she woke up, he called out, "Hey Choji, I need your help with Hinata's training." "So, what do you need me for, Munch?" "Well, Hinata-chan needs to put on some lean weight, so I thought you were the best with figuring out how she should do that." "Yes, Munch, I see, Munch. The best way is to eat plenty, Munch, of lean meats." "So you're saying that going to an all-you-can-eat barbecue would be the best option for her?" The big ninja's eyes grew flaming at the mention of that. "Yes, barbecue, barbecue." As Ino walked toward Naruto and a shout about youth could be heard beyond the door, Choji bounded out of it before Lee could. She started to ask, Naruto, can I, but was cut off. He did not need to hear the rest of the question before responding, "Yes, you can bring him if you want." "But how do you?" As the awake Hinata clung to his arm, he looked around suspiciously and said, "Shush, I'm not dim-witted like they think I am." They followed the dust that Choji and Lee had created as they raced to the barbecue restaurant, and when they finally caught up to them, Lee was sitting on the ground sobbing. "I've let you down. Guy-sensei, I'm no longer worthy after losing 2 races in one day." Guy simply approached his pupil and kicked him in the jaw, sending him flying. "I won't allow you to put out your youthful flames in that way, Lee. Going forward, we'll train twice as hard," Guy screamed out while giving the nice guy pose. Lee, with tears in his eyes, embraced his teacher in a hug. "Guy-sensei. Lee, Guy-sensei." The rest of the group nodded in agreement as Naruto declared, "And he wonders why he doesn't have a girlfriend." After entering the restaurant, the group sat down to discuss the circumstances surrounding Naruto's return. They had to fill them in because Ranto didn't have access to intelligence reports and Hinata was chosen from among everyone, so they didn't know what threats remained. Naruto was both relieved and a little disappointed to learn that Akatsuki had been defeated. Naruto was largely responsible for the organization's demise. Even though he was unaware of it at the time, the leader had nothing left when he realized the Kyuubi was gone, so he went crazy and murdered all of his subordinates before taking his own life. Itachi somehow escaped and hasn't been seen since. After everything was said and done, Naruto departed with Hinata, who felt safer and more included than ever. The couple decided to take a stroll around Konoha while conversing because it was still a little early in the evening. Naruto-kun. Hinata eyed her beloved, attempting to think of the right way to phrase her inquiry. With a smile that would warm any girl's heart, Naruto asked her, "What made you love me the way you do?" "I felt the unspoken love from Ranto. And clearly you love me very much now, so you had to have felt these feelings before, right?" "I really don't know. I don't know how feelings work, but one thing I do know about you is that you were always very cute when we were younger. You have most likely read my journal, so you know I have always noticed you, but it was your caring and the feeling I would get when you would watch me train after the academy that helped. You may have gained strength from me, but I learned what love was before I even knew exactly what it was from you. Even though I was mostly dense to your feelings, when I look back, I knew I cared for you even when I didn't know what that feeling was." Hinata gazed lovingly at him and realized that he noticed her, but it made her feel sad. She said, a little upset, "And to think, if I could have been a little more confident, I could have had you sooner." "Hey, don't dwell on that. We can't change the past, but we sure can have one hell of a future." When she thought of some more intimate things she was looking forward to doing, her cheeks flushed. "Yeah," she answered, but Naruto interrupted her. "Say, Hinata-chan, did you ever wonder why there was even a law created between a Hokage and your clan? I think it is way too convenient that there just happened to be one, and that I just happened to be a Hokage's son. That is a bit strange, But I don't care, as long as I can be with you. I just wish I didn't have to suffer your death twice. His joy was waning at the thought of that. I wish there was a way to ease your pain that I caused. If there was a way to make it up to you, I would. She gave him a seductive smile and then planted a kiss on his lips, saying, "Don't beat yourself up on that, my love." She stroked his cheek and purred into his ear, saying, "I think I can come up with a couple things for you to make it up to me." Naruto became very suspicious of her because of her peculiar behavior. And what might those ideas be? She smiled seductively and said, "That's my secret, but I assure you it won't cause displeasure." She understood his meaning and blushed while maintaining her sultry smile. "That isn't helping, and stop with that sexy smile and stuff, it's getting a bit too exciting." She then pointed out to him that he was stroking her butt rather than her back as he had been doing before, saying, "Well, I'll stop exciting you if you stop exciting me." He muttered, "Oh, sorry," and pulled his hand away. She grumbled, "Who said you could stop?" The two were getting heated up over this conversation, and who knows how things might have gotten worse if the sky hadn't opened up and rained down a deluge of rain. After letting out a startled scream, they burst out laughing and fled back to the Hyuga Manor, where they were soaked by the rain. Have you noticed that the majority of stories are always sunny and lack any weather patterns? Hopefully, this chilly rain will help us all, especially her, feel a little more refreshed. He stopped thinking when he saw that he was standing outside his bedroom door, staring at a damp Hyuga girl who appeared to be waiting for an answer. I don't need a horny Hinata this close to bedtime. Besides, I don't think she can handle that much in her weakened state. She was flushed, and it didn't go away because she had to say it again. What was that again? I was lost in thought. She was still red, and Naruto was merely grinning at her when she said, "I asked if I could possibly, bring some stuff in here? You know you are just so cute when you blush." She started to go, but was stopped. Thank you, good night, Naruto-kun." He sighed, not believing what he was about to say. "I never answered your question, Hinata-chan, but I have a feeling you want something more than to bring some stuff in here." Hinata knew what he was trying to say, but she wanted to hear it in his own words, so she began to push it. "If it will help, you are welcome here." "I don't quite understand what you are saying," she told the truth. "Oh, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm saying." Strangely, Naruto decided it was best to give in before she did something, saying, "No, I'm still a bit lost." Hinata was having fun with her game and decided to take it a step further. "Yes, Hinata, you can stay in this room if you desire." Innocently, she inquired, so where will I sleep, and how long can I stay?" "You are evil, you know that? You want me to say it? Fine, you can stay in here with me, sleeping in the same bed with me for as long as you want. You happy now?" This time, she understood exactly what she was saying when she pushed past the shocked blonde and entered the shower. "Yes, very much," she giggled, "but I'm far from satisfied." After returning in a warm bathrobe, she went to her room to retrieve some clothes and other items while Naruto took a shower. After taking a shower, he came back to find his lovely angel putting away some clothes in the cabinet. While wearing a silky nightgown, he hurried into bed and covered himself, trying his best to ignore her form, though she understood why he was ignoring her. Hinata scowled at him soon after. She crouched beneath the sheets next to him and gave him a snide glance. She smiled her seductive smile and said, "Do you really think you can get away without giving me a goodnight kiss?" He leaned over and kissed her on the lips, but his plan backfired when she grabbed his head and held him close to her lips. "No, I guess not." Even though Naruto unintentionally placed his hand on her bare knee, she was aware of it. She slowly moved his hand up her leg, seeing this as an ideal opportunity for something more. Hinata was disappointed when Naruto felt his hand grow a little warmer than normal. While he was enjoying the kiss and softly sucking on her lower lip, he prevented the kiss from continuing. Her face was beseeching as she said, "Please, why did you stop?" Since he has only been back for a few days, he questioned, "Why do you push for this so fast?" Naruto shook his head in response, evoking the same dejected expression in her eyes. "I told you before, I'm not waiting like I did previously. I promise I won't push for sex until we're married, so just help me this one time." When his hand lightly touched her thigh, Hinata felt defeat approaching, but it vanished quickly. "I don't think you are well enough to handle it. If this would make you happy, I suppose we can see how you take to it." The next paragraph or two could be categorized as lemon lime, which is slightly more than lime but not quite a lemon. As his hand moved up her thigh, Hinata grinned and nodded joyfully. She wriggled in protest as he kept playing tricks on her, slipping his hand within an inch of where she wanted it to go and then sliding it back away. He decided to finally see how much she would enjoy what she wanted. After finding it funny how much she enjoyed this touch, a tiny moan escaped her lips as he worked his hand all the way up her leg and touched her delicate skin. As her groans grew louder, He felt the sensitivity of her skin and ran his fingers lightly up and down the flesh of her opening. He moved around caressing her tender skin until he came to a place where she screamed with delight. When Naruto gave her a firm kiss, her loud scream was instantly muffled. She joyfully accepted his tongue as he pushed it past her lips, still stifling the uncontrollable groans as she caressed his with her own. She began to writhe in pleasure as he continued to massage her moist opening, holding his tongue captive and sucking on it tenderly as he enjoyed his touch. Hinata bucked her hips and arched her back, letting out an utterly blissful scream that was still muffled by the unbroken kiss, but her breathing became shallower and faster as her groans turned into full-out screaming. At last, she unwinded on the bed while continuing to idly suck on his tongue until she realized and let him go. She muttered, "Sorry," between pants. "Sorry? For what? You can't do anything wrong in these situations unless it causes unnecessary pain. And that tongue thing you did was amazing, so, did you enjoy yourself?" She moaned dreamily. "Immensely." She exited before dozing off. He grunted slightly as he removed his moist hand from between her legs and lost contact with her sleeping form. After pulling her gown back down to her knees and pushing her legs closer together, he dozed off. Konoha. The 11th to the 18th of June AK. Because of the night's rainstorm, which blocked out the sun's strong rays for the majority of the day, the morning was cloudy and dark. Naruto had been sitting in a chair across the room from the bed, staring at his sleeping fiancée for the last 4 hours, and it was almost 1 p.m. Hinata would snuggle into the bed's sheets with a constant smile on her face and some quiet moans, suggesting that she was having some very intriguing dreams. Naruto-kun. She muttered drowsily as a hand felt the bed beside her and found nothing but air. She rolled into a ball and began to cry, saying, "No, please no." It felt so real this time. Naruto leapt out of his chair and rushed to her, bringing the crying ball to him right away. He cradled her tiny body and stroked her soft hair, saying, "Shush, it's okay." Her pale eyes slowly opened to look at the source of the reassuring voice. "Shush, I'm here, you aren't dreaming." Naruto-kun. "Yes, I'm here. Do you think you will ever stop thinking it is all a dream?" He smiled despite being a little confused by her statement. "I'm sorry Naruto-kun, I've just been dreaming of being with you for so long that I can't tell when it is real or not." Hinata's eyes widened and her face flushed as she exclaimed, "Well, I do know that you and I are real and what you experienced last night was real as well. But I thought for sure that was a dream." She became even more irritated. Hinata, how long have you had these dreams, and how far have we gotten in your dreams?" she asked. To ease her discomfort, he assured her, "It's okay, you don't have to talk about it, it doesn't change anything." Naruto got out of bed and sat down in the chair once more, saying, "No, I need to tell you, it might actually help me to tell you what I dream." Unhappy to be abandoned, Hinata stood up and sat on his lap as usual. "Sure, go ahead then." Her gown was slippery, so she struggled to stay on his lap until he held her firmly by the butt, which caused a faint squeak and a smile. "I've probably been dreaming of you for about 10 years, but it was only in the last 4 years that they got just a bit more intimate with the touching in my dreams. We have only gotten as far as we did last night. It is hard to dream accurately when I have no idea what you look like, you know." With a playful smile, he asked, "So you are saying that I only pleasured you? Are you secretly selfish then?" "No, that's not true. It's just that I've never been with a guy, so I don't know how things work exactly." "Hey, why are you laughing at me?" "Sorry, but I just meant it as a joke. I wasn't intending you to answer. Besides, I'm sure you'll be able to figure out the how quickly since I've never been with a girl, but you sure seem to enjoy yourself with my little knowledge." In an attempt to go unheard, she said softly, Yes, thank you. Do you think we can do that again?" "No, I don't think so." She sighed and buried her flushed face in his, asking, "Why? It felt so good." "How tired do you feel?" "Very. Is that from my, Probably. It is already past noon. You have been sleeping a long while," he told her. But it still felt good. She appeared a little upset at that, but concluded it was probably for the best. "I'm sure it did, but I think it is still too hard on your weakened body. I'm going to leave and get you some food and talk with Tsunade a bit. Do you think you can handle sleeping here without of me?" she said. "Yes, I think I can manage. You are just so thoughtful and caring of me. I love you." Naruto got up, carried her back to the bed, placed her under the covers, and kissed her forehead before leaving, but she grabbed him and gave him a genuine kiss. "I love you too, see you soon." She smiled at him and said, "Now, you can go." With a wild smile of his own, he ran to the tower. He discovered that he is far more patient than he once was because, upon arriving at Tsunade's office, he actually paused, knocked on the door, and entered after receiving instructions to do so. "Hello Hokage-sama." The blue-eyed blonde smiled as he inhaled heavily to yell at the trembling Hokage, aware of what was about to happen. What the hell, Naruto? You're actually polite, that isn't a good sign. He screamed. What the hell, Bah-chan? Are you telling me you knew who my parents were and no one told me? But quickly lowered his voice. I've been searching my entire life for that information, but I'm sure it could have been dangerous for me, he said. Naruto calmed down completely and sat in one of the chairs, as if he had turned off a switch. He said in a calm voice, so, do you think you can tell me about them? Tsunade shouted, trying to get the ringing in her ears to stop. Damn brat. You really have matured. I was expecting you to rudely yell that 2 days ago, but you actually waited until we were alone to blow up at me. Really, there isn't anything I'm allowed to tell you until your birthday, but most of your answers will be revealed then. Well crap, that's a waste then. Do you think someone could teach me a soundproofing jutsu? Naruto blushed in shame as he considered the purpose of one of those. What do you need one of those for? He asked. She interrupted his digression with a smile and said, well, you see, it's for You think she is going to be that noisy, huh? Well she is, he cautiously gave in. The Hokage yelled, what, you've only been here for 2 days and you've had sex already? No, we haven't had sex yet, but she is quite noisy when we're kissing. I can only imagine how loud she will be when she is more excited. Alright, I'll get you a scroll on that, but just don't push her into doing that yet. There is plenty of time for that after you're married. With a small wave, Naruto walked out of the room without saying anything. Well, thanks, but I'm not the one that will be doing the pushing. Tsunade grinned and thought, it's always the quiet girls. Hyuga manner. A moment later. Where are you going, Hiashi-sama? A white-eyed servant asked. While displaying a specific set of hand signals, he gave the command, going to take out the trash, now leave me or die. Since everyone was out for the day, Hiashi strode down the deserted hall and yelled, yes, my lord. He stood outside a bedroom door and then threw it open with a loud commotion. Hello, my whore demon, do you have any demons in mind? They gasped and opened their pale eyes to meet the older man's face. What are you doing here, father? She insisted. He said sharply, I see you're lying with the demon already. Not like it is any of your business, but we haven't had sex yet. He answered, nor will you, as Hinata got to her feet beside the bed. What are you discussing? She almost made a demand. You weak little whore. Do you think you can defeat me? You are within my divination's range. Hinata was hit hard, severing her chakra points and rendering her immobile as she collapsed back onto the bed. Why, Dad? Every week, she inquired. He gives her a lustful smile that makes her feel completely repulsed. I found I was left with 2 choices to get a strong heir. 1, I could kill you now and Hanabi will be heir, or 2, you could lay with me and create a new heir. My apologies, this is just needed to illustrate the darkening influence of a new enemy, and no, you will never get that far. How could you even imply that I'm your daughter? You are just another woman in my eyes. You are not my daughter. What have you decided, then? With his Byakugan still on, Hiashi stood staring at her in an attempt to frighten her. I will choose death, of course, just kill me and get it over with. Very well, but I do think it is unfair to let a woman leave this world as a virgin. Hiashi locked the door behind him and went to the side of the bed, pulling her gown to just below her breasts and staring at her femininity while grabbing the hem of her gown as she screamed in protest and shoving a cloth in her mouth to muffle her screams. I see you must have been dreaming of your demon. You are wet already. This will make it much easier, he said as Hiashi hears a sound coming from the direction of the door. He unfastens his robe. Rasengan. The door was torn apart, exposing a blonde who was furious. I told you before, if you ever touched her, I will kill you. And you planned on raping my future wife as a ninja of the village hidden in the leaves. I find you guilty of attempted rape, torture of an innocent, child negligence, attempted murder, and being a poor excuse for a human. I hereby sentence you to death under the laws written by the Hokages. A blue sphere appeared as he looked at the condemned individual. Rasengan. Kaden. The blue sphere collided with the Hyuga's strongest defense, sending them both reeling back into a stalemate. The blast sent Hinata in Naruto's direction, and he dove in to capture her before landing. She looked directly into his eyes and pleaded, please don't kill him, he is still my father. Hold on a little while longer, guys, he will be dying, like he even could. I'm near cage level, I am beyond him. Don't worry, I won't kill your demon yet, he has to stay and watch me break you in. Hinata let the tears fall knowing that he was correct, but she still had a glimmer of love for her father, no matter how tiny. I'm sorry, I can't let him live. He is a threat to the village, and if he isn't destroyed, he will come back for you. Besides, a real father wouldn't think of touching his daughter like that. She reached up with all her strength and kissed his cheek, saying, you're right, Naruto-kun. He isn't my father. He died when my mother did. Please don't get hurt, Naruto-kun. After placing her on the ground, Naruto turned to face Hiashi, his eyes brimming with rage. He prepared his jutsu and another ball of chakra formed in his hand, saying, "Well, it looks like your pardon doesn't arrive today. I've already proven the uselessness of your jutsu. What makes you think this time will be any different?" Hiashi asked arrogantly. Wind picked up in the room as it gathered towards the sphere in his palm, sending large blades outward from the ball as it slowly rotated around it. Easy. I didn't live a few years of my life as a wind master and not learn a thing or two about using the wind element. Now die for your crimes. Naruto yelled as he began his defense at the head of the Hyuga. Kaden. Naruto smirked and pushed his palm against the wall of chakra. As the real power came to bear, his jutsu pushed Hiashi against the outside wall and called out to the defense, Fuden. Rasen Shuriken. This caused the entire wall to tear off the room, shredding the bed in the process. The jutsu slammed into the ground after following Hiashi out of the wall hole. The foundation of the manor was damaged as tiles flew off the roof, branches were torn from the trees, and the ground shook after recovering movement from the Tenketsu attack. Hinata gasped at the enormous crater left in the courtyard, her mouth and eyes wide. However, a dark, moving shadow vanishing into the dust went unnoticed. Ha. The influencing shadow once more. I promised you all that you would see it. I believe you will learn more in the upcoming chapter. She ran to the crater's edge and screamed, Naruto-kun. While attempting to see through the dust, the heiress, a little alarmed, was finally approached by a dark figure. The form inquired, "Are you all right, Hinata?" "Naruto-kun," she yelled at him, kissing his face several times before finishing with a long, tongue-infused kiss. They heard a great commotion, which interrupted their makeout session. Above the cheers of the other branch members and a few villagers, the words, "Woo, yeah you get him girl," could be heard. It seems that the jutsu was sensed far away, drawing people from all directions to the manor. When Tsunade and Anbu charged into the area and stopped in front of them, the two stood staring at the group with red faces. Tsunade turned to the couple after glancing at the mangled body at the bottom of the crater. "You were just in my office 25 minutes ago and now you've killed someone. Who was it, and explain why you shouldn't be arrested?" asked Tsunade. "Well, Ba-chan, you see, shut it. This is serious. You could be executed if this was who I think it is," she said. Hinata screamed, "No, you shut it," and everyone gasped in surprise as they heard the quiet girl yell louder than many can as Tsunade's rage reached unimaginable proportions. She whispered, "Naruto-kun saved me again. This time he was going to rape and then kill me." Tsunade became calm after witnessing Hinata clinging to her future husband as if he were her only hope that would be ripped away. "How dare he? I have half a mind to figure out a way to bring him back to life just so I can kill him myself and then bring him back again so I can cut off his balls and shove them down his throat." After a glare from Tsunade, the crowd dispersed, and Naruto simply stood there with Hinata clinging to him. "Hinata, don't worry, under these new circumstances he won't be arrested." After he said, "All right, we have a guy that has died at least twice, holds the most powerful demon in existence, finds out he is the son of the Yondaime, and is marrying the heiress of a powerful clan who has been nearly raped and killed by her own father. I think we are going to need a lot of psychiatric counseling." He fell backwards in frustration, not realizing Hinata was still hanging on him as she flopped, face first, on top of him. She looked into his blue eyes and said, Hi. Hi yourself." He responded by licking the tip of her nose, which caused her to giggle and then burst out laughing. Tsunade wandered away from the mess to avoid the cleanup, thinking, "Yes, counseling it is." October 10, 018, AK. Konoha. After several months, almost everything is back to normal. After undergoing counseling, Hinata recovered to her former, healthy self with few emotional scars, some of which even involved Naruto. The couple still resides at the Hyuga Manor in a huge, recently remodeled bedroom that was created by combining Hinata's room with the old, demolished room. Even though Hinata has demonstrated her health, no matter how hard she tried to woo him, well, I suppose she didn't try everything. She has never experienced a recurrence of the previous behavior. In terms of training, Naruto has been able to use Rantu's swords by channeling the Kyuubi's chakra, who has been utterly silent and grants unrestricted access to the chakra since Naruto's new level of chakra has strengthened the seal. Hinata is also back to her former self. I suppose that's why the blonde is currently training with his dark-haired beauty, even though today is October 10th. Naruto hasn't realized it's his birthday because he hasn't really celebrated it and didn't know when it was in previous years. As she dabbed at her perspiration, Hinata demanded, "Naruto-kun, I want to see how strong you really are. Come at me with everything you have." Infuriating the heiress, he responded, I'm afraid not. I will never come at you with absolutely everything, you will get hurt. Her command, do you still think I'm weak? Now do it, caused Naruto to frown. No, you were never weak, but you will never be able to defend against all my strength. It isn't about techniques or skill since you have large amounts of both. You may even be at the level of Tsunade right now. Hinata's eyes widened when she said that. Are you kidding? No, your strength is unrivaled, but you don't have the near limitless chakra reserves to hold out against me. From what I see, my own chakra is nearly 3 times the amount you have, and then you add in Kyuubi's. If I were to put most of it into a single attack, no one can survive. She stood her ground on the subject and responded, I won't accept your reasoning until I see it myself. I'm not saying you're lying, but I just want to know how much you actually have. Naruto assumed a ready stance and waited for her to follow suit. All right, then. Be stubborn. I will attack with one special punch at about 50%. Defend with your strongest defense. As she activated her Byakugan, Shugohaki Rokuhuion Sho, she said, thank you. The amount of chakra being poured into the jutsu caused razor-like bolts of chakra to form in front of her, glimmering with sheer energy. Fist of the Demon Lord. Naruto's fist struck the barrier, stopping it completely in its tracks. Prepare yourself, Hinata, he said, clenching his right fist as it began to glow red until red flames of chakra encircled his entire arm. The barrier pulsed once before being covered in red chakra. Now be careful, release. The barrier said as a huge shockwave smashed through it, sending Hinata directly into a huge tree. He yelled, Hinata, as he watched her fly through the air defenselessly before Tsunade grabbed her and brought her down in front of him. Angry at what she saw, Tsunade yelled, Naruto, what the hell, are you trying to kill her? He stumbled to come up with a plausible explanation, saying, no, I was, she wanted to. Dusting off her clothes, Hinata calmly said, don't blame him, Hokage-sama, it was my fault. I made him show me his strength, but he only allowed me to see about half. She looked at the blonde and asked, are you nuts? That attack had more chakra in it than most Jonin. Just how strong are you? Well, since Kyuubi went silent, I've gotten to control 60% of his chakra, but I keep another 10% of that strictly for healing since the chakra still hurts me when I use that much, Naruto replied with a timid grin. Before she vanished, Tsunade said, that's surprising. Well, since Hinata isn't really hurt, I'll let you off this time, but you still need to come by the conference room by noon. Naruto walked up to Hinata and kissed her, saying, that was weird. Why did she come by to tell me that in person? You alright? She smiled and said, yes, thank you for showing me. Okay. From now on just fight me at your maximum and I'll match it. Hinata gave him a peculiar look after he said that. But if you do that, then how will you get stronger? Replied she. After receiving a nod, he took her hand and they walked to the Hokage Tower, talking about trivial topics but mostly just enjoying the touch. I already have all the raw power I could ever need. I just have to use it better so I won't need to fight at maximum. To do that, let's start walking to the tower. If we walk slowly enough, we should get there just in time. When he and Hinata arrived, Naruto yelled as usual and rushed into the conference room. Hey Ba-chan, what do you? Everyone in the room, including Konohamaru and company, all of the Rookie 9 and Team Guy, Jiraiya, Iruka, Shizune, and Tsunade, as well as Ayame, yelled, surprise, happy birthday Naruto. Hey thanks guys, I guess I forgot it was my birthday today. They all screamed at once. What? The group joked, chatted, and generally partied for a few hours before being forced to disperse because there were tasks that needed to be finished that couldn't be put off for the day. Well, when you never really celebrate one and then you live a few years without one, you tend to forget. In the past it was always a bad day for me, but I guess it is about to change. Let's party. After bidding each other farewell, Naruto, Hinata, Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Kakashi departed the room. Well, the three of us have some gifts for you. Tsunade gave Hinata a small scroll that she had taken out. She said, what is this for? Just open it. Hinata. Naruto asked for one of them, but I chose to include the other. Hinata blushed as soon as she opened the scroll. This time, Naruto blushed a little and whispered into her ear, well, I understand the reason for the birth control one, but why the sound barrier? Hinata quickly realized and almost passed out before being stopped, saying, you were very loud when you were enjoying yourself. Kakashi threw Naruto a single key and said, yo, here. No, it isn't a key to a stereotypical clan home. What is this for? Kakashi-sensei? Don't know. Oh, you're a real lot of help. Jiraiya appeared at that moment, carrying a larger scroll than the jutsu scroll, and he appeared oddly solemn. Tsunade chose to give Jiraiya a free escort by punching him in the face after he handed over the scroll and declared he was going to do research. Here, this will tell you about the key, it's from your father. The oddly at ease Hokage asked, so are you going to read it, or just look at it? Yeah, okay. Naruto placed the scroll on the nearest table, and Hinata remained out of his way so as not to interfere after opening the scroll and activating the blood seal. He glanced at it bewildered before turning to look behind him. Hinata-chan. I think this is also addressed to you. Tsunade and Hinata both exclaimed, huh? As Hinata went to read beside him. To Naruto and his future spouse. I wish you both the best of luck in your marriage, even though I wish I could have met you both in person in the future. Both of you will play a significant role. I apologize for putting you through this, but the true reason will be revealed later. Naruto. I hope you have mastered using all of the chakra that was sealed inside of you, because you will need to keep your Hyuga princess close by when the impending battle takes place. You will only succeed if you use your combined strength. Bring the key I had Kakashi give you to the hidden scroll room's entrance. Then use it to open the door. It will contain another scroll to read. After rolling up the scroll, Naruto stood, Hinata trailing behind him. Hey Ba-chan. This scroll is really weird. He knew I was marrying a Hyuga. Well, his wife, your mother, was from an ancient oracle-type clan, so that may have something to do with it, she said. Tsunade shrugged at the odd request and led them into the secret scroll room, leaving Kakashi to his mission, whatever it was. Okay. But it is still weird. He also said I needed to go to the secret scroll room and use the key Kakashi-sensei gave me. The door opened into a room distinct from the scroll room after the key was inserted into the lock and twisted as they entered. They were welcomed by a room with large pictures on all four walls. One of the larger pictures near the center of the room captivated Hinata. She looked at the photo of a dark-haired woman with her hair flowing in all directions and said, Naruto-kun, who is she? She's gorgeous. His smile was knowing as he asked, did you look at her eyes? What do you mean Naruto-kun? Hinata shakes her head and gasps, Hinata-chan. That beautiful woman is the same person I see every morning. That is you. How? I don't look anything like that. Hinata turned to the aforementioned photo, which was even bigger than the one before it, and simply gazed at it, asking, well then, who is she hugging over there in that picture? She noticed that the dark-haired woman from the previous photo was in a light embrace, wearing what appeared to be an Enbu outfit that was blowing in the wind, and that a tall blonde with spiky hair and marks on his cheeks was gazing lovingly into his blue eyes. Naruto-kun, how? She exclaimed, astonished. He waves his hand in her face and says, I don't know, maybe we should find that scroll. Hey Ba-chan. Ba-chan? When she awoke from her reverie, she yelled, what? You were a bit spaced out there. Tsunade left the couple in the room as they continued to look at the photos until they came across one of a bloody battle. Yeah, this is just weird. I'm going to my office. If you find something important let me know. The woman, whose eyes bulged, was seen defending the blonde, who had red slitted eyes and claws that tore through strange, shadowy creatures. Naruto located the scroll and opened it to read. Well, it looks like you are still saving my life in the future, Angel. Oh, here it is. This may seem strange to you both, but I know it was strange to me. I've had these photos since I first met your mother, which was around 5 years ago. She had owned them for a few years prior to that. I didn't know how to feel about them before I accidentally opened a dimensional window in front of your mother and witnessed the battle play out in front of me. They appeared familiar, but I was unable to identify them. I realized then that it was the future because I had not yet mastered some of my own techniques that were being used. I only sealed him in you because I saw that his power would be needed in that battle, but I don't have much time left now because your tenant is attacking. I left your wife a wedding ring with the seal required for the jutsu engraved on it, along with a scroll containing instructions on the Hiroshin jutsu. Once you have mastered the jutsu, all you have to do is concentrate on the picture of the ring, and you will be by her side in no time, since those creatures, in my opinion, are from the same dimension as the shadows for the cage Bushin. I also left some notes on theories regarding the dimensional window that I advise you to examine. You too should exercise caution, and Naruto, you did the best you could by taking good care of your lovely wife. After locating the ring, the tri-pronged kunai, and the jutsu scroll, the two departed the room for the time being. Well, Hinata, I have no idea what these creatures are, but we have some training to do. Naruto locked the door and returned to Tsunade's office to warn her of the impending danger. After we win that battle, we'll need to get some of those pictures copied so we can have a few for our room, but for now they're safe here. Well, I have some bad news, Ba-chan. It looks like there will be a large-scale battle in the future, but you don't need to worry too much. By the look of the pictures, it is only Hinata and me that will have to fight, but you should still be on alert. Is there any time frame for this battle? She inquired. There wasn't a specific date, but it was said that the ring Hinata was wearing was her wedding ring. So my best guess is that it will happen sometime after our wedding. There is still a lot of information I can learn from that room. Hopefully I can find something there to help. The office door slammed behind them as they were pushed out, with the words, "Okay, keep me posted on what you found out. Now get out of here and enjoy the rest of the day." Naruto said, "Well, what do you want to do now?" When she finally realized they had been in the room for a long time and it was already getting dark, she said, "I don't know, but I am feeling a bit hungry." "Sounds good. I think we should drop these things off in our room and get a good shower before we go out, and I'm thinking something nice for a change. Ichiraku's is good, but just isn't a romantic setting like I want since we really haven't had a romantic date yet." Hinata gave him a kiss that was brief. Hinata joyfully dragged her fiancé back to the manor to get ready, saying, "I would love that, and I have the perfect thing to wear." Naruto took the first shower, changed into nicer black pants, and put on a dark orange shirt with black sleeves and no collar. They left the items in a safe in their room. Naruto chose to pull out the scrolls and practice a little while Hinata prepared because he needed to pass the time. He chose to practice sound barrier jutsu after realizing how challenging the Hiashi was. It was a simple jutsu that he had mastered with ease. He even changed it slightly to allow sound to enter the room but not leave, allowing it to be left on continuously. Hinata emerged from her dressing room, which was attached to the bathroom. Just as he was done tinkering with the jutsu, she was dressed simply in a pale lavender dress that accentuated all of her body's curves. When Naruto saw her gorgeous, healthy form, he hardly managed to hold onto the scroll. She always seemed to look more beautiful when she dressed, regardless of what she was wearing. The girl blushed nicely at his compliment. "You really look beautiful, Hinata-chan. I'm starting to think there isn't an angel that looks more beautiful than you." Naruto led her into town and past the majority of the inebriated villagers who had a little too much fun at the festival that evening, saying, "Come on cutie. Let's go." They arrived at an empty grassy spot with a view of a tiny pond that was lit by the moon. "This is really beautiful, Naruto-kun." But, at that moment, a small table appears, and the single candle on it brightens with a smile on his face. Naruto took her hand and escorted her to the table, where he sat. First Hinata opened her mouth to speak again, but Ayame interrupted and set down a couple of glasses of water. "Ayame-chan, what are you doing here?" Hinata inquired, obviously taken aback. Ayame took their orders. They didn't need a menu because they knew what they wanted, and they vanished into the night. "Well, father and I knew Naruto wanted to take you somewhere nice and romantic, so as our birthday present to him, he could have the romantic dinner with you without sacrificing his favorite food." "This is perfect, Naruto-kun, but I thought this would be something to do for my birthday instead." He wished he hadn't said those words because Hinata was grinning seductively once more. "Well, this is something I really wanted for you, so I guess it counts, and besides, you get to be married on your birthday. Hey, what did I tell you about that smile of yours?" As she continued to smile at him and touch his leg with her bare foot, she lied and said, "I have no idea what you were talking about." The food was brought out before she could go any farther. Bringing her attention back to it, they sat and gazed at the stars after their meal was done. But they soon realized it was getting late and they had to return because they had training in the morning. Hinata closed and locked the door behind them as they entered their room. With a sigh, Naruto sat down in a chair after taking off his shirt, leaving only the t-shirt he was wearing underneath. He became a little more relaxed until he had to open his eyes, at which point he saw Hinata taking off her dress to reveal a complete set of dark blue underwear that matched the color of her hair. With a seductive smile, she turned to face him, kicked off the remaining dress, swayed to the chair, and sat on his lap. Facing him, she gave him a passionate kiss after noticing the stunned and dazed expression in his eyes. When he was unable to speak, she asked, "How do I look?" Since he had only seen a few glimpses of her body when she was extremely thin, he was in complete awe and couldn't find the right words to express it, so he simply returned her kiss. She kissed him again, making some gratifying noises as her tongue moved in and out of his mouth, speechless. "I like that." As she felt powerful hands move over her body and finally settle down firmly, holding her ass and drawing her further into the kiss, she maintained full contact with his lips. When they finally split up, Naruto noticed her slightly flushed lips and wanted more, but he didn't want to get ahead of himself. He never got a chance to say, "Hinata, we," before she quickly kissed him again to silence him. This is the end of the chapter. If you prefer to avoid sexual content, a little citrus action, no sex yet, but they can't get much closer than this. She was about to kiss him again when he kissed her violently and sucked on her lips, surprising her. "I promised you I wouldn't pressure you into sex. That gets to be saved for our wedding night, but everything else is fair game." He got to his feet and clutched her by the soft but firm backside, kissing her wildly and getting a lot more sounds of pleasure from her without even making eye contact. He placed her gently on the bed and unclasped her bra after releasing her from the tight garment. He gazed at her bare chest and finally broke the kiss. This time, he leaned in and gave Hinata a series of extremely gentle kisses on her almost swollen lips, making her whimper as she tried to contain her voice. "You look so perfect like this. I never knew someone could drive me crazy like you do." He began his gentle kissing again, starting with her lips, and continued until she grabbed his head and crushed his lips to hers. She then let out a loud moan into his mouth, sending a thrilling shiver through his body. "Hinata, you can express yourself any way you want. I already mastered that jutsu when you were taking a shower earlier." She groaned to him as he kissed her jawline and then her left ear, where he gently licked the earlobe, causing her to giggle and moan at the same time. "Thank you. I don't know how much longer I could hold that in." Following a gentle nip to her ear, he used slightly harder kisses to work his way down her neck until he reached her collarbone, where he gently sucked on her sensitive skin, making her go crazy. After gently licking the now bright red skin, he returned to her luscious lips and gave her a passionate kiss. Naruto kissed the right side of Hinata's face, doing much the same as he did the left, while she relished every second and was being driven insane. He kissed her up the underside of her neck to her chin on his way back from her right side. Then, he attacked her red-faced lips, causing her to suck wildly on his intruding tongue and elicit another joyful moan. She whimpered in disappointment when he violently broke off their relationship, even though she wanted to keep him there. When she felt his warm hands begin to massage her breasts, she stopped whimpering. She almost squealed when he moved down and licked one breast before sucking on the tender nipple and massaging the other. He let his mouth drop and blew lightly on the damp skin, sending goosebumps spreading from that spot. She yelled, but it was obviously not from pain, as he began to massage that breast again while he watched the other person sucking on it and gently dragging his teeth across the skin. Hinata made another sound of pleasure as he carefully squeezed one nipple and sucked on the other. Before he could react, Hinata was straddling his stomach and running her fingers through his hair. He released his grip once more and moved back up, kissing her once more when she suddenly pushed him, turning him over on his back when he caught a nipple in his mouth and sucked on it. She gasped in shock because her breasts were hanging down in his face. She pulled it back from his mouth with a smile, and when she saw the look of disappointment on his face, she laughed. She removed his shirt, kissed his abs a couple of times, and then moved down to unbutton his pants. "They aren't going too far," she assured him, "but I think it's my turn." She carefully approached and reached out, shyly touching it with her hand before quickly jerking it back when it moved. After carefully unzipping them and sliding them off of him to reveal the large bulge in his body, she pouted after Naruto made fun of her behavior. She complained, which led to more laughter. "Hey, I wasn't expecting it to move." Hinata's pout turned back into a smile as she wiggled back and forth, causing her breasts to bounce around, and she giggled a little when she saw the pleased expression on his face. "I'm sorry. You just look so cute when you pout, even more so with your breasts bouncing as you move." Refocusing her attention on the bulge, she decided to take a close look and swiftly removed his shorts by grabbing their waist. When she saw what was hidden, she gasped a little, not because it was large, but rather because she was drawn to it. She knew very little about the Hyuga because she had never seen one before, let alone seen any pictures of them, because they were prohibited in sex education. She moved closer, and when she touched it again, it moved as it had the first time. As she slowly made her way back to it, she asked inquisitively, "Why does it do that?" I guess it is very sensitive and well, I guess I get more excited when you touch it," was the response. "So, it feels good when I touch it?" she asked, reaching out once more and running her index finger down the underside, eliciting another response before a soft moan. He closed his eyes and told her, that it does." She moved a bit closer, wrapped her hand around his shaft, felt its firmness and size, and examined everything with curiosity. Gazing up at Naruto's face, she noticed that he was grinning at her interest. She prompted more laughter by asking, "Is this supposed to fit in me? I think I know how things are supposed to work, but I'm not sure anymore." He reached forward and stroked her cheek, and she smiled as he said, "So I guess you weren't allowed to take that class in academy either. From what I've learned training with Ero Sennin, it will fit but could cause you pain in the process. I guess we'll find out in a few months now, won't we?" He made her squeal by squeezing both of her nipples as she returned to him and forcefully ground her lips into his while biting his lower lip. She slapped his hands away from her and ended the kiss. She responded to his questioning gaze by saying, "It's still my turn," until she reached her latest obsession. Hinata traced the outline of his chest muscles back down across his abs. She gave it another touch, grinned when it moved, then grabbed it firmly and simply held it in her hand. She gently caressed the looser skin beneath the current object of her attention with her other hand. She released his member and gently stroked his head, eliciting happy moans from her beloved. She slowly moved her hand down the length and back up after gently wrapping her fingers around him again. It was obvious that she was enjoying herself. She halted abruptly, bent down, and gave it a quick kiss on the tip. While feeling Naruto's muscles tense, she instantly let go of everything and leapt back, fearing that she had injured him in some way. With a hint of fear, she questioned, "Did I do something wrong?" He pushed out, "Hell no, not in the least, I loved it." Her confidence returned after hearing that, and she grabbed him once more. This time, she chose to lick his member's head, which caused him to react more strongly. After having an epiphany, she returned her lips to his, slid the head into her mouth, and began sucking while flicking her tongue across the tip. She was still sucking on him, and now it was Naruto who was groaning while sucking and licking. She pushed him deeper into her mouth and then withdrew. She repeated this a few more times before being gently dragged away by firm hands. She slurped as the man was taken out of her mouth. As if he had just taken away a child's new toy, she asked, "Why did you do that?" He grabbed her shoulders and threw her further onto the bed, causing her to scream in delight, "Because it's my turn again." They shared another passionate kiss. As he approached her side, she didn't care that her lips were a little sore because the joy of kissing out was far greater. Before placing the nipple in his mouth and gently sucking, he broke off and went down to one of the soft mounds to lick it. She said in a slightly groaning voice, "You really like those, don't you?" But he didn't respond. As it popped out of his mouth, he went to the other one and gave it the same attention, so he didn't really need to respond to her question. Before kissing her all the way from the top of her lace panties down her stomach, he released this one and gave it one last lick. He raised a hand and touched her through the lace, causing her to grunt in response in one fluid motion. They were lying on the floor next to the bed. After he snatched the offending article of clothing, he gasped in shock as he turned back to face her and saw the fine skin folds that comprised her feminine features. Hinata swiftly sat up after hearing the silent gasp. She questioned, "What is it?" She grinned at him as he pushed her back down on the bed and returned to his previous position, saying, "It's just that, you are even beautiful down here. I found what has to be the perfect woman." He spread her legs wide and looked around. He gave her inner thighs a massage and lightly touched her sexual epicenter, causing her to whimper that he was only playing with her and wasn't yet making full contact. Kissing the sensitive skin of her legs close to her womanhood, he placed his face between her thighs. He kept going closer and closer until he reached the opposite side and began kissing his way back up. Hinata was so fed up with the taunting that she finally lost it and snatched his head, slamming his lips into her crotch while letting out a loud moan at the touch. After escaping her hold, he said angrily, "Well, that wasn't very nice." She looked at him, upset that she had angered him, but all she saw was a smirk. "Sorry, I couldn't take the teasing anymore." After shifting between her legs, he licked her nubs several times, causing loud screams, before lowering his tongue back down from the bottom of her opening to the top. In an attempt to taste her fluids and ignore the sounds she was making, Naruto decided to try sticking his tongue as far into her as he could and moving it around. He withdrew his tongue from her and continued to gently lick every delicate skin fold, leaving none unlicked. Hinata was writhing and writhing on the bed, screaming and moaning, until she felt his warm, moist mouth pause and flick his tongue over her nub, sucking on it alone. At that point, she lost control and screamed, but he continued before sticking his tongue back inside her to taste her flavor again. He licked her a couple more times. Pushing her over the edge once more, he stood up and gave Hinata a final kiss on the lips after a few more last licks. "More," she groaned. Feeling utterly blissful, she turned her head, and he kissed her cheek before returning for another kiss. "More." She pushed him on his back and crawled on top of him, sticking her wet pussy in his face as she inserted his entire rod in her mouth and started pumping it up and down. "More what, Hinata?" she asked, but her mind was unable to produce the words. When Naruto saw the sex-crazed Hinata, he was startled and remained motionless. She drew him out of her mouth, retreated closer to his face, and wiggled her ass at him after failing to get the pleasure she desired. "More," she pleaded once more, but received no response, so she retreated even more and began grinding her pussy against his face, which instantly caused her to begin moaning once more. Though he couldn't think of a better way to do it, he finally jolted out of his reverie and pushed her forward off his face to avoid suffocating, receiving a disappointed whimper in return. Naruto watched her dripping pussy tremble as she waited for some much-needed attention. She didn't need any more convincing to attend to her needs. He licked the slippery skin as she groaned in agreement, reinserted his member into her warm, moist mouth, groaned loudly, and sucked its length. They kept doing things while making lots of noises of pleasure until she reached her third orgasm of the evening and began to shake because she could no longer stand the feeling of his mouth on her with his shaft still in her mouth. She let out a scream of pleasure, pushing him over the edge due to the additional vibrations. When Hinata felt streams of viscous fluid shoot from him into her mouth and down her throat, Her eyes widened abruptly. She was taken aback and began to choke until she made the decision to swallow it, since it kept coming. A small amount of the milky liquid leaked down his shaft from the corner of her mouth, and she licked up what was left after swallowing the last of it, rolling her away from him. Naruto gazed into her half-closed eyes. "You have enough now?" He smiled and asked her. He returned his boxers, which were resting on the edge of the bed. After receiving a nod in return, he then shifted the weary Hinata to her pillow, lay down beside her, and pulled her nude back against his chest while his arm was wrapped around her waist. Hinata took his hand and laid it on her breast with her remaining strength. He simply responded by kissing the back of her neck and lightly squeezing her breast as they both fell asleep, grinning. "Happy birthday, Naruto-kun." 018 AC, October 11th. Mid-morning, still clutching the soft pile of flesh, Naruto woke up smiling. He determined it was time for them both to get up for the day. After realizing it was almost 11 a.m., leaning over, he nibbled on the creature's ear as it slept soundly beside him. She began to giggle after a few licks, indicating that she was already conscious but was only enjoying his touch. "Good morning, Angel. How are you feeling?" She yawned sweetly and said, "I'm feeling excellent." Then she turned and lay on top of him, kissing him for a long time. Rubbing her bare back, he said, "You do realize you're still naked, right?" She smiled and said, "So you did have your face between my legs last night, so I have nothing left to hide." "Well, you have a point. You were quite aggressive too." She apologized, which led to her being thrown onto her back and given another intense kiss. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know what came over me." Hinata took hold of his head and held his lips to hers for a lengthy makeout session, but it ended too soon. "Don't apologize. You were the best birthday present ever. Whenever we do stuff like this again, I don't want you to stop until you're completely satisfied, even if it takes all night." She reluctantly let him go and went into the bathroom to take a shower. "Hey, let's not get started up again or you won't be satisfied for a few more hours. We need to do some training today and I think we'll be needing our strength for that." After 10 minutes, she came back smiling and wearing only a towel around her hair. She made sure to show off everything by making exaggerated movements, particularly when she leaned down to pick up her dress off the ground, which allowed Naruto to get a clear view of her butt. To avoid losing his much-needed energy, which he was certain to lose if he looked any longer, he hurriedly got up and ran into the shower, knowing that all she would have to do to win him back in the future was to expose some skin. Hinata merely laughed lightly, satisfied with that understanding. She changed into her regular training attire and bided her time until he had finished preparing. He appeared wearing his go-to black trousers and a thin black jacket that was open to show off a gray shirt with a few scrolls in hand. The couple left to start training after grabbing a basic breakfast from the Hyuga kitchen while Hinata studied her scroll from Tsunade. Naruto started reading the Hirashins right away while Naruto struggled to determine the aspects of only the odd symbols required for the jutsu. Hinata was able to figure out the aspects of hers 2 hours later. She muttered shyly, Naruto-kun, I'm done with my jutsu." He asked, not really looking up from his scroll, "Which one was that?" Naruto looked up, but her face was so red that he burst out laughing. "You know, for someone so aggressive when we're alone, you sure do change outside, but you're still cute. Maybe you should try to find Sakura and see if she can teach you a simple numbing jutsu to accompany that one," he suggested, continuing to laugh at her. She bent down in front of Naruto-kun's face and kissed him, saying, "I love how you're so caring, Naruto-kun. I'll be back soon. Love ya, bye." She smiled at him and left to find her medic friend, saying, "Love you too, Angel, be careful." The reason no one can replicate this method is because it requires 3 separate seals to be placed over one another. As he continued studying, he thought, the seals overlap each other and need to be drawn individually, but you can't see the others to know how to place them. In the training grounds close to the hospital, Hinata discovered the pink-haired medic engaged in some exercises. She yelled her name and ran up to her, waving. "Sakura-chan." She turned to face her bright smile and asked, "Hinata, what can I do for you?" Sakura squealed and hugged Hinata, who instantly blushed and smiled a little wider. "What's with that smile of yours? Wait, did you have sex?" Hinata asked. Her question was, "So how was it?" Still in a blaze of red, Hinata said softly, "Well, we are actually saving sex for our wedding night, so we didn't quite have sex." She questioned, a little perplexed, "So, what is, not quite having sex?" She looked down and nearly whispered, There's well, let's just say, he has an amazing tongue." Sakura yelled, "What?" drawing the attention of a blonde who was walking by. The two kunoichi were approached by Ino, who yelled, "Hey forehead, what are you yelling for?" Hinata got Naruto to use his tongue. The amount of talk nearly killed Hinata with embarrassment. "So, I love kissing with tongues. "What's so surprising about that?" replied Ino. "No, I mean down lower." Ino's eyes widened and her mouth fell open. Tell me, how did you convince him to do that? I've been trying to get Sai to do that for months, so how was it?" She begged for clarification. The two gossiping kunoichis sat down and turned to face the Hyuga girl, saying, "Yeah, Hinata, do tell." When Hinata chose to sit with them rather than run, she was still a vivid shade of red. The other two simply squealed in response to the statement, "It's amazing." Ino said, "So did he get you too, you know?" "Yeah, I think it's a really good night if I get there before Sasuke-kun falls asleep," said Sakura. Actually participating in the conversation, Hinata questioned, "So, sometimes you guys don't even get satisfied?" Sakura said, "Well yeah, why?" And Ino nodded, still not believing what she had heard. She questioned, "Don't they care about your, needs?" Sakura said hastily, "Well sure they do, why?" "Well you're satisfied at one?" The two asked, astonished, as they turned to face the Hyuga girl. Sakura asked, looking very sober, "Hinata, how many?" Hinata could only hold up her fingers as she gazed at the serious-looking faces of the girls in front of her. Sakura exclaimed, "Holy shit, 3, as Ino gazed at her as if she were a goddess. "How did you get him to do that?" The other kunoichis were just shocked when she said, "He just does. He told me not to stop until I'm satisfied, even if it takes all night." With her mouth still hanging open, Ino simply nodded in agreement. "Hey Ino, let's steal Naruto from her with his stamina. He could probably take both of us." Hinata simply gave them a charming smile. Sakura and Ino simply nodded stupidly, but they were genuinely afraid of how sweetly she promised impending death. "You do know if you go anywhere near my Naruto-kun as more than a friend you'll have more pain than you could imagine, right?" she asked. "Good, now then, is there a jutsu that'll take the edge off the pain from the first time?" Hinata blushed again and nodded her head shyly, and Sakura began teaching her right away while requesting more information about their night. Yeah, I'll teach it to you under the same conditions I gave Ino when I taught it to her, but I think Ino will want in on this too. You'll need to share details of your experiences with us, and with your experience so far, we definitely don't want to miss out on them." After mastering the jutsu, Hinata fled without disclosing too many personal details. Hinata decided to meet up with her fiancé to see if he needed some food because she was extremely hungry at 2:30 p.m. He wasn't there when she entered the clearing of their private training area, but the scroll was there, with one unique kunai protruding from the ground. Before hearing a shout from above, Hinata anxiously searched the area for him. The blonde landed face first at Hinata's feet after appearing in a burst of light 20 feet above the ground. As soon as Hinata saw the situation he was in, he burst out laughing. "Ouch," he moaned as he got up off the floor. "Hey, why are you laughing, Hinata-chan?" With fewer giggles, she said to him, "I see you haven't quite mastered that jutsu yet. Why don't we go find some lunch for now and we'll get back to training in a moment." Naruto picked up his gear and went back to her side as they made their way to Ichiraku's for lunch. "Yeah, okay." After lunch, the day flew by as Naruto resumed training with the new jutsu and Hinata worked to improve her skills and study some more sophisticated medical jutsus that Sakura had given her, which should help her in the upcoming battle. For the next 2 weeks, it continued in the same way, and aside from training, nothing happened. This annoyed Hinata a little, so he tried to get more attention by sleeping naked in the hopes that it would help, but for some reason, he paid little attention. In terms of training, Naruto was able to master the jutsu rather effectively, but it was still lacking the ability to detect the movement of the kunai as it is thrown. This means that he cannot be called upon in any other way, such as by simply throwing the weapon as the Yondaime intended, and he still appears to be landing with great force. He would only practice it for the first part of the day because he had it mostly figured out, and the other half of the day would be spent reading the notes on the theories of the dimensional windows. Naruto confirmed that Kage Bushins use a medium from a different dimension after studying the note for another week. He also discovered that when he pushed more chakra, as he did to create the stronger clones, it was actually pulling simple life forms from that dimension, giving them the extra durability. This also explained the inconsistencies that appeared, such as when he created Ranto. However, he pushed too much chakra when creating Ranto, which caused the dimension to rip open wider, potentially releasing some of the creatures he saw in the picture he was fighting. He was unable to investigate further because he ran out of information. November 8, 18 AC. Around 10 a.m. angry that she had been disregarded for yet another night, Hinata decided to confront him about it. When she woke up she felt a little alone, or more accurately, unwelcome, because he wasn't even holding her very tightly. "Naruto-kun, are you awake?" she asked timidly, afraid of the response and not really wanting to ask her next question. As she turned to face him, he yawned and said, "Yeah, I'm awake." She looked into his eyes and asked, "Do you still find me attractive?" "Yes, more than anything. Why? It has been about 3 weeks since you've touched me other than hugs and kisses, and even they weren't that involved," told him. His response, which annoyed the young Hyuga, was, "It's been 3 weeks already? I guess I've been focusing on training and haven't noticed?" She frowned and said, "I've noticed." Hinata gave him a big smile and gave him a long, drawn-out kiss before releasing him. "Well, I do need to train a lot to protect you and everyone, but if you can keep it short, you want to do some stuff, like now?" she asked. The following lines contain some brief sexual material, but they are also humorous. He was pleasantly surprised when Hinata straddled his face and gave him a mouthful of her before he could react. "I probably won't be completely satisfied, but I'll make it short for now." He slid his tongue over her skin as she was ready to take off his boxers, making her tremble in the heat and unwind on top of him. He said, "Sorry." She gave him a curious look in return. She asked, a little annoyed at talking about what she wanted. "For what?" I didn't realize you were this horny. Please come to me before you need it this bad." She threw off his only piece of clothing and ordered, "Okay, now less talking, more licking." She licked it thoroughly, then gently inserted his prick into her mouth, encasing it in her warmth as she let out a loud moan as his tongue buried itself deep within her before the door opened. She was savoring the moment as she moved his length in and out while waves of pleasure swept across her loins from his amazing actions. "Naruto-san, there's a package." Neji's eyes nearly dropped out of his face, and he almost died when the package hit the floor and Hinata's eyes locked with his. The loud moaning he had heard after opening the door ceased. Neji was stunned by what he was witnessing, and Hinata was motionless, her eyes wide and still holding Naruto's appendage in her mouth. Both of them were startled out of their reverie by Naruto's voice. "All right, so years ago, nearly 10 years ago, when my brother was preoccupied with his fiancée, I nearly encountered the same circumstance. There is one thing I want to bring up. Use the damn lock on the door if you are going to a house with several people living there, especially when lunchtime has arrived. If my eyelids hadn't moved more quickly than my focus, I might have been permanently scarred. Yes, I mean scarred. Even though I was foolish for not knocking, you still need to get dressed by noon." Even though Neji couldn't see Naruto's face from where he was standing, he said, "Out Neji, or I'm charging admission." Hinata finally recovered her voice, but her whole body was flushed with shame. "Shit, sorry," Neji said as he ran out the door and shut it behind him. She said, obviously embarrassed and wanting to clarify, "We should talk with him about it." Naruto replied, glancing back down at his surroundings, "Yeah, maybe later." She screamed as he carried on exactly where he had left off, "What do you, yes later." She followed his example and led him back inside to continue their oral quiz. 45 minutes later, they left their room, fully dressed for the day, to discover Neji leaning against the wall, still in shock. Naruto and Hinata chuckled as Neji numbly nodded and hurried out the manor door. "Hey Neji, knock next time, and go find Tenten. I think you have enough ideas." Following a modest breakfast, Naruto opened the package he had been given. As they made their way to their regular location, Naruto threw it open to reveal nothing, since it only held a scroll. She giggled as he called out, "Hey, Hinata-chan, the scroll is empty." "I don't know how you can make a message like that, and still not recognize it," she laughed. "Huh?" he replied naively. "It's like the message you left me in your journal?" "Oh, right?" As the words appeared, Naruto directed some chakra into the scroll. "Naruto, the battle failed because of a change in circumstances. Ultimately, we prevailed, but I lost her. Some of the creatures must be returned to their home realm because they cannot be destroyed here. One returned and stole her from me just when we believed we had them all. Don't allow it to occur to you. You can practice the dimension door at any time. It's a jutsu that enables one-way travel to the shadow dimension, and I've included instructions for it before I forget. The battle takes place in mid-January, so make the most of your post-marriage fun. Be careful with your, our angel." Naruto, shit, well, I never thought I'd get a letter from myself in the future. Sorry Hinata. But I might ignore you a little bit in the future so I know you'll still be here, he said sorrowfully. Naruto smiled and nodded, then returned to reading the jutsu instructions. "I understand, but just hold me tight at night, okay?" He asked. "All right, I'll go find Sakura so I can exchange my scroll for another one." She started to walk away, but Naruto grabbed her arm and stopped her. Hinata gave him a strange look and said, "I think you're forgetting something." He stood beside her and kissed her, and she said, "Okay, now you can go, angel." She gave him another quick kiss and smiled brightly before rushing away, leaving him to practice in peace. Hinata found Sakura with Ino in their usual conversation spot. Here's your scroll back, Sakura." Hinata sat with her friends and they immediately began questioning her, saying, "Oh, thanks Hinata. Sit down, we were just talking. So, I see you're smiling, but not as widely as before. Did he not satisfy you completely like you thought he was going to?" replied Hinata, shaking her head. "Huh, thought so, no one could be that lucky." Hinata defended, "No, there were other circumstances." "Oh, what were these conditions, then?" Tenten rushed up with a big smile on her face as Ino asked, making Hinata blush wildly at the memory. "You wouldn't believe this. Guys, we had the most amazing sex ever when Neji showed up at my apartment and even used his tongue on me." When Hinata blushed even more, the other three kunoichis noticed. "I don't know what came over him, it was perfect." "Hinata, don't you know what went wrong with him?" They could tell she was looking at the ground when Ino asked, her face flushed. "All right, let it out," Hinata Tenten threatened. "Tell me what happened or else I want more of that." Hinata began, Neji brought Naruto a package this morning." Hinata blushed more in shame as she went on, "So, that explains nothing." "Well, I was on him, he was to me and I was, to him." "What did Hinata do?" Sakura asked until it all hit her. "What, you were 69 feet in?" When Neji entered they all knew the answer as they gazed at her darkening face. "Well, that answers a lot. No wonder you didn't get completely satisfied," replied Ino. "What are you two discussing?" Tenten asked. "Oh, you didn't know?" Tenten dropped the kunai she was twirling when the shock struck her. "Hinata got it 3 times all in the same night last time and they don't even have full-on sex yet," Sakura exclaimed, grinning. "So, do you enjoy doing that to him?" Damn, Tenten inquired with interest, and Hinata merely nodded in agreement. "So, what do you do when he Sakura simplified it after Hinata failed to respond to Ino's desperate question. "So when he does, do you move correctly on his part?" Hinata simply gives a humiliating shake of her head in the negative. "You don't, ew, Hinata!" exclaimed Ino. Hinata blurted out, "Well, it tastes better than your protein shakes." Sakura said, "Hinata, you're bad." Hinata quickly covered her mouth and muttered, "You don't know the half of it." However, it was too late because they could hear it. "All right, what else did you do, Hinata?" Tenten inquired as Hinata continued to shake her head and hold her hands over her mouth. Suddenly, a flurry of leaves materialized, and Kurenai sat down among them. "Why are you here, Kurenai-sensei?" Startled to see her teacher lounging around like one of the girls, Hinata inquired. Hinata grinned at her teacher as the others scowled. "Well, I took it upon myself to listen in on your talks every time just to keep an eye on you all, and I just saw you clammed up about the topic so I came down to help you." "Thank you, sensei." Hinata's eyes widened as she saw her teacher smiling like everyone else. "Hey, that's what I'm here for. Now for me to help, you need to spill it, come on. I know you can never keep information away from me." Hinata turned back to the ground in defeat. They stared at her in confusion as she grudgingly admitted, "Fine, I shoved it in his face, twice so far, and I'll do it again if I have to." "What's wrong with thrusting something in his face?" Kurenai inquired, utterly perplexed. Hinata began, "It was but her final words were not audible. "What are you?" Sakura was pride. "My pussy, okay. I've smothered his face twice with it, and I enjoy sucking his cock and having him suck on my nipples. I can't wait for us to get married so I can scream loudly and screw the hell out of him all night long. Do you want to know anything else?" The group was shocked by Hinata's yelling and the subject matter of her tirade when a white-haired elderly man suddenly fell from the tree, paralyzed by information overload. Is there any way to make him forget everything?" The group asked. Hinata's voice became much quieter as she asked. "Yes, but once you're married, you sex-crazed madman, you'll have to tell us everything." Before Ino slumped to the ground and entered Jiraiya's mind to erase memories, she said, "I don't know if Naruto is the luckiest man on earth or not, but I sure neither of you will be moving after you're married." When she returned, her face was filled with disgust. "Well, I know he is going to think he lost his memories after the beating he is going to get," she said. "What are you saying?" Hinata inquired. Ino told them, "Well, Sakura is going to beat him within an inch of his life." "Why would I act in that way?" the pink-haired kunoichi wondered. With an optimistic smile, Ino replied, "Well, based on what I saw in his mind, pink is your natural hair color, and I didn't think you could bend that way, lucky Sasuke. He witnessed that. I'll murder him." While Ino was laughing the whole time, Sakura leapt at Jiraiya and punched and kicked him all the way to the hospital. "Ino, didn't you guess about that?" Hinata inquired. Sakura eventually ran back after kicking Jiraiya's ass, panting a little, "Yep, but he did deserve it. Okay, if you didn't manage a laugh or even a smile yet in this chapter, then you're hopeless." So Hinata, Sakura began. Do you think I could get Sasuke to inadvertently walk in on you guys, since it worked for Neji and Tenten? Hinata was really irritated by her joke. No, I can't bear to have someone see me in that condition again, but I'll discuss what transpires. Those activities are between us, but I enjoy doing them with him, she shouted in embarrassment. Here is your next scroll to study. Go take a cold shower, or have Naruto take care of your needs. You're getting too worked up here, aren't you? Easy Hinata, I was only joking, she assured. After calming down, she remarked, yeah I need more, but I won't get it for another 49 days. Are you serious? You seem to be saying that you would give it to him at any time. Why would he say no? Tenten questioned aloud. Well, he needs to train for a very important mission that happens in January and I take a lot out of him so we can't for a while, she murmured. Ino said, well then just take care of it yourself. It doesn't work, I've tried and it just makes me want him more, was her response. Tenten suggested, damn Hinata, take that cold shower then and maybe see if he can take a day off just for you. No, that is self-centered. People could perish if he is not at his best, and a lot is riding on his mission. If it could save one life, I would go a year without. He won't say no, so I won't ask him. Hinata grinned at Kurenai for her suggestion, nodded her head in agreement, and left with her scroll to find that chilly shower. All right, Hinata, get out of here. Just make sure you don't let him move without you on him after you get married, got it? When Hinata realized it was late and neither she nor Naruto had eaten since breakfast, she quickly prepared a simple supper and decided to bring it to him while trying to freeze herself and meditate. She lost track of time and noticed that their training area had a black pool of swirling darkness in the center of it. Don't go any closer, Hinata-chan. You'll end up in another dimension, Naruto cautioned. I thought it was supposed to be a door. Yes, it serves as a door, but I'm still learning how to use it. He grinned shamefully and scratched his head, saying, I can't close it, and it's still unstable. Hinata took out a small box and began laying out the food for them, saying, oh, I have some food for us. She picked up a few items and gave them to him, who promptly began eating. This Hinata-chan is really good as usual, Hinata blushed. I'm going to love being married to you. After finishing their meal, Hinata curled up in his arms while they watched the dimension door swirl in the forest. Thank you, Naruto-kun. They kept eating while observing the swirling darkness in front of them. How are you doing, Angel? He kissed her neck and asked. Fine, was her hasty response when she pushed her tongue into his mouth and began to moan at the contact. He tilted her head back and gave her an upside-down kiss, saying, come on Hinata, I know you better than that, tell me what's wrong. Hinata, you feel very warm, are you okay? She replied, I don't know, I am feeling tired. I'm exhausted too. Let's go home, Angel. Before Hinata could get to her feet, Naruto lifted her into his arms and held her while her arms wrapped around his neck, supporting some of her weight. Suddenly, the dimension door collapsed in upon itself and closed completely, taking the unsettling feeling with it. What are you doing? She managed to say, I can walk, as her eyes threatened to close. Knowing how uncomfortable it is to sleep in training clothes, Naruto unzipped her jacket, slowly moved her out of it, and pulled her shirt off before easing her pants off as well. It really only took about 20 feet, and Hinata was already asleep in his arms, but she was still very warm. Naruto then slowly walked into the Hyuga manor and to their room, laying her down on the bed, causing her to stir, but she immediately fell asleep again after repositioning herself. What are you doing? She asked drowsily, not opening her eyes. She snuggled into the sheets as he pulled the last of her pants off her legs and said, you fell asleep and I'm putting you to bed. She said, take them all off, okay. Before falling back asleep, Naruto shook his head and smiled as he took off her bra and underwear, just staring at her flawless body before putting the sheet over her and falling asleep with her on the other side, noticing that she was still a bit warmer than normal. November 9, 018. OOM. Mid-morning once again, it was morning, but something had changed. Naruto heard a faint whimpering sound coming from next to him. As he began to wake up, he opened his eyes weary, to find Hinata sprawled on the sheets, drenched in sweat. He put his hand on her forehead and asked, Hinata, what's wrong? Sensing that her temperature was significantly higher than it had been the night before. I don't know. I might have gotten sick. Remember how most stories steer clear of the typical issues associated with illness. How did that happen? He inquired worriedly. She said shyly, I think it was from standing in a cold shower for too long. Now why did you do that? He just stared into her eyes as she said, I was trying to cool off my once sorry. No, I should be the one that is sorry. I'd love to spend every waking hour taking care of our desires, but you know we have more important things to take care of. I'd rather have you for the rest of my life than to enjoy you for a few months and lose you. You understand, right? With her tender eyes gazing into his soul, she asked, I understand, but it still doesn't help this feeling. Do you feel like this? Short answer, yes, I want you so bad, but if we go there we will exhausted afterwards since I know we can't stop so soon like yesterday morning, so we need to wait. Most people would say that the little time we waste wouldn't affect our training, but I want every edge I can get in the battle to come. Besides, the more time we save here, the more time we can spend together after we get married, he stated with a reassuring grin. Hinata grinned at him and squeezed his hand until she fell asleep, then released it because she was still too hot. She was so exhausted that she didn't even stir when he pulled himself free from her hold, set her down on her pillow, and went to take a shower. She was sleeping soundly on her back, still fully nude, trying to cool off when he got back from the shower, knowing that no one was permitted to enter their room if the door was closed since the Neji incident the day before. He simply grinned, kissed her forehead, and went off to train. At approximately 5 p.m., Ino, Tenten, and Sakura were strolling down the Hyuga Manor's hall in search of Hinata, who had failed to appear for their daily meetings. They were also a little interested in how their room appeared following the renovation. The whole group stared at her nude body on the bed as they entered the room after knocking on the door. When Tenten saw Sakura there, he exclaimed, "Holy shit, Sakura, is that really what she has under that coat?" When Hinata began to wake up, the three of them leapt from their seats and were by her side when she opened her eyes. "Well, this can't be a disguise. I made her wear tight clothing once and she looked good, but I didn't think she was this well stacked." Ino called out, "Hinata, you're awake?" Unaware of her attire, she drowsily replied, "Yeah, I'm too tired to move right now." Tenten casually remarked, "So, I didn't know you shaved." Sakura noted, "Tenten, she doesn't realize she's still naked." Hinata squeaked and attempted to cover herself, but she was too tired to do so and stayed stretched out on the bed. "For your information, I don't. It's a trait of all Hyuga females. Now could someone cover me if you're going to stay here?" Sakura informed her, No, if I looked half as good as you do like that, I'd never wear clothes. Besides, you have nothing to hide anymore." Ino mistook her color for a blush and asked, "So why are you so tired?" "Looks like you got satisfied. I thought you said he would be training and couldn't take care of it," Sakura said. "No, I'm sick, so this isn't a blush," Sakura said, glancing at her. "Really? But you look good." "Yeah, with a body like that, you can't be human. It's too perfect," replied Tenten. What do you mean? You really don't know, do you? Hinata, you've hidden yourself from the world to the point that you don't even know how beautiful you really are," informing Sakura. She questioned, "Am I really?" before someone interrupted her. Naruto entered with a tray of food and said, "Yes, now what are you guys doing here and why haven't you covered her if you're here?" The medic muttered, Well," Hinata sulked, "they didn't cover me on purpose. I think they might be gay." "What? Huh, you what?" the girls asked, giggling weakly as they gazed at the still naked Hyuga. "Actually, Tenten is the one that wanted to touch her skin. We just wanted to look," Ino was defended. Naruto smiled and joked, "So why didn't you? Obviously she can hardly move." With a cute pout, Hinata questioned, "What are you saying, Naruto-kun?" "Well, if they want to touch you so bad, let them, as long as they don't turn you on, it should be fine," he grinned. With genuineness, she said, "Well, I guess so." Sakura said with a shocked expression, "What? Where did the shy girl go? I know she's been sharing information with us, but damn. She has been slowly disappearing since I got back. And your talks have been boosting her confidence. Keeping her desires hidden from everyone was taking a toll on her. Between Neji walking in on us and you guys prying information out of her desires are on the surface like the rest of the female population." Hinata was always helping others to the point where she was being taken advantage of. She ended up a follower with the mind of a true leader. Now she can voice what she wants more openly without being completely embarrassed. "Now, if you're going to touch her, do it and leave. I need to feed her since she hasn't had any food today and clearly is sick," Sakura declared. "No, we want to watch." The other two nodded grudgingly. "Why?" he inquired. "We all have relationships, but you two seem to have a much better bond and we want to see what it is like by observing," was her response before responding. Naruto gave each one a critical glance. Naruto held Hinata's overheating body upright and began to feed her soup, but she gave him a curious look. "Okay, fine. Aren't you going to cover me up?" Hinata simply laughed and gladly accepted the food, saying, "Nope, I like you like this and they don't care. Besides, you really need to cool off." As he fed her and grinned, she maintained eye contact with him. He held her in his arms and kissed her tenderly after she finished eating. "Damn, that's what love is. We've got a long way to go. Ours would just get to the point of bringing the food and tell us we're on our own and leave. That is if they even bring food." Ino did not say anything. For future reference, Tenten said, Hinata, I was wondering, are there other things are special to a Hyuga female? She told them, rather confidently. Well, it is quite rare to have a girl and you already know about not needing to shave. We also have very sensitive skin that makes some things more enjoyable. Okay, that is unexpected. I guess we'll leave. Thanks for indulging us, then get well soon, Hinata," said Sakura. Each of them ran a hand across her stomach before they left and made their way to the door. Before closing the door behind them, Tenten declared, "See, I told you her skin was really soft." You might wonder, what's up with this scene? I honestly don't know. It just happened while I was writing and seemed to fit in, so I left it in. It's also kind of funny. Hinata discovered that she was much closer to her ideal self after that uncomfortable month. She managed to maintain her always kind demeanor, but she made a significant change by never wearing her heavy jacket because nearly everyone she interacted with on a daily basis had witnessed her nude in an awkward situation, which made her feel very secure about her appearance. The blush she gets when she thinks about her fiancé is the only thing that hasn't gone away, and it's probably never going to. Let's just say that Naruto slapped himself for his mistake when he realized that his Hiroshin wasn't functioning properly because he had never put the blood seal back on the items and was attempting to use it solely with the blood connection from being family. He is currently developing a change for the Hiroshin. If he is done, he just needs to tag the shadow creatures and make a simple hand sign to move them to their realm, but that might not work correctly. Only time will tell. In this story, the Hiroshin transfers the user to the opposite dimension that the clones use, a light dimension. Not shadow, explains the flash of light. He is then immediately summoned, like a normal summon, back to the weapon. 018 AC. Mid-morning on December 12th, with only 15 days to go before their wedding, Hinata was so preoccupied with getting everything ready that she would rise before Naruto woke up and go back to sleep after he returned from training, hardly spending any time together. However, this was a necessary evil for a marriage this public. When Naruto woke up this morning, Hinata was gone once more, and he could already feel the rejection she had experienced the previous month. Naruto, feeling a little down, got up and dressed before leaving for his meeting with Tsunade. He burst through the door and, out of habit, yelled, "Hey Ba-chan, what did you need me for?" After he shocked her, she yelled, "Damn it Naruto, I know you can act better than this." He smiled sheepishly and said, "Yeah, well, this just seems like the way to act around you. Keeps you on your toes, right?" She made a straight face as she joked, "Well, it was boring without you, but also very peaceful. I'm torn on if I really want you back or not." At the end, he became serious and said, "Yeah, whatever, you know you like me. Now really, what did you need me for?" "Yes. Well, it seems there have been some mysterious attacks in the surrounding villages. It is unconfirmed as of yet, but the attacks were targeting certain items kept under guard by those entrusted to do so. From what Jiraiya could find out is that those items are part of a much larger device. We are assuming that this is tied to your upcoming battle and could quite possibly be the key to how those things got here. Get here. So that time thing messing you up as well. I've been hurting my brain over thinking about the package I got," he said quietly. Naruto scratched his head anxiously, asking, "What package was that? Are you holding out information on me?" I guess I forgot. I have been training a lot, so I guess I didn't have time to bring it up. It was just a scroll with a jutsu and a warning." With an uneasy smile, Naruto asked, "Really? Who was it from?" Me?" the Hokage clarified. Let me get this straight, you received a package from yourself?" "Yeah, you see, it told me that something went wrong in the battle, and after we thought everyone was defeated, one of them killed Hinata and was the reason he, or I, sent a special jutsu to move the creatures back to their own dimension." "Now you want to know what really gives me a headache though?" he observed the Hokage give him an inquisitive look. "Now if I sent that from the future, then at some point in this time, will I have to send the same package? If I don't send it, then I would never receive the package in the first place, making it impossible for me to have known that information in the first place, but yet I would still remember getting the package." Tsunade was simply staring at him oddly. "I knew you'd change, but I never knew you could think that deeply. You shouldn't worry about it though. Most believe time works differently in that it can branch off, making each event in time independent of each other. Basically, the future hasn't happened yet and the past can't be changed, so just take the information you have at face value and hope it all works out, and for crying out loud stop thinking you're going to hurt yourself," she said with a smirk. He shot back, "Oh, real funny. How about you stop drinking?" She simply chose to shift the topic. "Well, since the business is over with, how are you and Hinata coming along?" "Well, I haven't seen her much since she started preparing for the wedding, and I guess I really miss seeing her when I wake up. I haven't really had this feeling at the magnitude it is at. Sure, I missed Konoha and everyone when I was away training, but this is much worse and I even see her every night," he said with a gloomy expression. "Well, I guess you really are still a bit dense." You really love her more than anything. That feeling is natural. How about you two make time for lunch together? I'm sure she is feeling the same way but doesn't want to interrupt your training. Speaking of which, how has that been going? She asked because he hadn't really discussed it in the least. Well, I think I have the Hiashi down, and I've managed to make the dimension door, the one I sent to myself, function properly, just not as well as I had hoped. Currently I am focusing on making another jutsu that will kind of unsummon something. It should send anything back to its original dimension, even summons like Gamabunta. There shouldn't be any worry about someone copying the jutsu since I think that only I can perform them, kind of like a bloodline, since you said my mother was from a clan tuned to time and space and as such I am able to manipulate it and it takes much more chakra than most can spare. Surprised by how much he has. What I have learned over the past few months, elevate others. Well, that is good. Keep up your training, and don't forget to train in something other than ninjutsu. You don't need your taijutsu getting rusty since that is what really keeps you alive in a fight, she cautioned. When Tsunade heard his assessment of Jiraiya's choice of companion, she had to suppress a laugh. Yeah, I know, that pervert at least drilled that into my head when he wasn't out looking for a good time with the skanks. Alright brat, get going. I have a large amount of paperwork to take care of. After he closed the door, Tsunade simply waved him away and grinned broadly. Whatever Ba-chan, see ya. Damn, that kid has enough energy that he would finish this paperwork in half the time I do. He may turn out to be perfect for this job. Returning to his training area, Naruto meticulously made 5 clones. He instructed the other 3 to spar with one another while attempting to use the Hiashi in combat scenarios, while he sent 2 off to train with the dimension door technique. Naruto started tinkering with his new jutsu in an attempt to make up for lost time after witnessing his clones at work. The blonde dispelled the clones after roughly 5 hours of non-stop training, and the realization hit him like a ton of bricks. He returned to the Hyuga manor slowly and got into the shower. After touching the soft sheets, he drugged himself to the bed and passed out from exhaustion. When Hinata entered the room at around 11 p.m., she saw her blonde fiancé sleeping face down on the sheets and grinned. She undressed and slithered beneath the sheets to sleep with him. He rolled over to look at her and drowsily called out, "Hey Hinata?" She said, "You're awake." Yeah, I've missed you. We haven't seen each other much recently," he said. She looked him in the eye and said, "I know, but we both have stuff we need to get done." "Yeah, but if we keep going like we are it may take a while to get our relationship moving again. We need to spend time together or we could risk losing what we have. I will make time in my day to spend an hour or 2 with you over lunch if you will do the same," she responded. "Naruto-kun." Hinata pressed her lips to his, indicating her response as she pushed herself closer. "I would give you all the time in the world if you asked." Hinata gave him a dejected look before rolling back over and placing her back to him. "Thank you, Angel. Sleep well." He closed his eyes. She squeaked out, "Ah." Then, out of nowhere, a powerful arm encircled her waist, drugged her across the space between them, and held her firmly. After hearing the slow, steady breaths that indicated his level of consciousness, she knew she wouldn't receive a response when she said, "Now I'll sleep well. Good night, Naruto-kun." She easily dozed off in his arms after following his example. December 20th, 018, mid-afternoon. Ike Hinata was extremely tense just a week before the wedding. She had trouble sleeping and tossed and turned every night, but she was still able to leave in the morning before Naruto woke up. She was obviously worn out from her lack of sleep by this point, but she still had a few things to finish up before the big day. The use of the Bushins caused Naruto's jutsus to advance significantly, and he was even close to breaking his new jutsu. However, it was consuming a lot more chakra than he had anticipated, and he wasn't even sure if it would work, so it needed to be tested. To do so, he needed to summon the boss, but it had to be a very powerful summon in case something went wrong and he didn't have the chakra to summon the boss again in the event that the jutsu didn't work. Why not ask? He had no idea what to summon, and he had never called upon anyone but Gamabunta and the little brothers. Gamakichi, Naruto's favorite orange toad, was standing in a cloud of smoke. "Yo, Naruto, it's been a long time, hasn't it?" "Yeah, no kidding, I screwed up big time and I got some stuff to take care of. Oh, and I'm getting married in a week," he said with a grin. With a defiant expression, the toad said, "I see, let your summons know last, huh?" "Hey, it's not like that, Gamakichi. I've needed to do some heavy training since I found out. It's a long story, I'll tell you later. You guys can come to the wedding if you want to. It'll be held outside so there's plenty of room," Naruto replied. "Hey, that sounds good. If there's some sweets I'm sure you'll need to summon a few of us. I'll tell them all about it. Now why did you summon me? I'm sure it wasn't just to tell me that." Naruto is nervously scratching his neck. "Yeah, you got me. I hate to ask, but I created an anti-summoning jutsu that I'd like to test. But I don't know if it will send them back to the correct dimension. If they end up somewhere else they could run into some bad creatures, so they would need to handle it until I re-summon them. I was wondering if you knew of someone strong yet crazy enough to let me try it out, he replied with a reserved voice. That would definitely be a powerful jutsu to have. Is it tied to your blood? Asked the toad. Yeah, why? The blonde inquired curiously. Perfect. We wouldn't help if it could fall into the hands of anyone other than your family. Now I think I have someone in mind that can help, but he hasn't been summoned in a while since he is a bit out there for real combat, but he likes extreme situations, informed Gamakichi. That sounds like the perfect guy or toad, but how would I summon him? Replied Naruto. That's easy for me, just give me some of your chakra for me to summon myself back and I'll take care of the rest. Before the little orange toad vanished, Naruto put his hand on his head and gave him some of his chakra. Okay. Before he made the decision to train, he asked himself, I wonder how long it will take to make the most of the moment. Naruto called forth a few clones and started sparring with them. Gamakichi returned in a puff of smoke about half an hour later. Yo Naruto, he has agreed to help. You only need to use half of what you need for Pops. You don't need to be exact since I placed a seal on him that will bring him before anyone else for a few days. The toad was mentioned. Hey, sounds great. You want to stay for a while to watch? Asked the man. Yes, I will stay for a while because I also have a message for Ero Sennin, the amphibian said. Naruto gathered the necessary chakra, bit his thumb, and activated the jutsu, exclaiming, okay, let's go. About 10 feet of smoke billowed in front of them, revealing a dark gray toad wearing a crash helmet and chainmail. The big toad exclaimed, woo yeah, let's party to the extreme. Naruto looked at the big toad whooping and hollering and remarked, I see what you mean, Gamakichi. He said to his summoner, whoa Gamakichi, that's Naruto huh? Well, you can call me Gamariki? Yeah, I'm Naruto and I'm going to try out a jutsu on you for returning summons. There is a possibility that you'll end up in the wrong dimension. That's extreme. Let's do it. Naruto had to suppress a chuckle at this toad's eagerness for perhaps dangerous situations in his hand. Naruto formed a ball of black mist as he charged up his jutsu, throwing the ball at the big toad. He said, alright Gamariki, here it comes. Before both of them vanished in a cloud of smoke, the ball made contact with him and spread, completely engulfing him. Naruto gasped as he attempted to rapidly restore his chakra in order to call forth the toad again, saying, that was slightly different from what I expected. Naruto performed the gestures and slammed his palm to the floor, saying, I suppose we should get him back here. The gray toad reappeared directly in front of him, but his chainmail was sliced in several places. Whoa, that place was extreme. There were like these things about my size along with a bunch of other things converging at a single area, and I just happened to land in the middle of them. Dude, that was awesome, but I don't want to go there again. He gave in. As he received the information he required, the blonde exclaimed, well crap. That was supposed to send you back to your dimension, but I guess it works for what it needs to. Thanks a lot Gamariki, you can go. The toad vanished after saying, hey thanks, dude, feel free to call me again if you have something extreme again. Naruto told his smaller toad friend, that guy has been beat on the head a few too many times. Yep, that's Pop's younger brother, he was dropped on his head once I think. Looks like it. Well, I guess I got what I needed to know for now. Naruto watched the small toad hop away and returned to his training with what little chakra he had left. Okay, I'll go find the pervert and give him my message. December 26th. Early morning, 018 AC as usual. Hinata woke up early and attempted to get out of bed, but the arms holding her prevented her from moving as usual. She grinned and tried to pry them off, but for some reason, she was unable to break free of his hold. Hinata turned in his grasp, her noses touching, and he said, you're leaving a little early, Angel. I usually get another hour. She questioned, how do you know when I leave? He kissed the tip of her nose and said, I always wake up when you do. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to. I don't mind, I like watching you walk to the bathroom. You give me a nice view. Thank you, she said with a laugh. I really need to get going, there's a lot of stuff to do. She made another unsuccessful attempt to pry herself away. You need some help? The wedding is tomorrow, so I'm not training today. I don't want to be injured for the wedding, he said. Her response was, sure. She held his face and gave him a long, passionate kiss. She broke the kiss and said, I would enjoy your company today. After completing their morning routines, they each went off to gather some items, such as preparing everything for the wedding ceremony. People were running everywhere in the manor, which was a hive of activity until they finally arrived at the spacious open area behind the manor, where the wedding was to take place. The couple was repeatedly stopped by necessary questions, however, they were then interrupted by additional inquiries. They pulled out a map of the area and began pointing out various locations and directions until Naruto intervened. "Hinata-sama, how would you like things set up here?" they asked. "Hey, do you think there may be a way to keep a larger area open? I have a feeling a very large friend will show up." To gauge how much space to leave, the organizer asked, "So who is this large friend?" "Well, Gamakichi sounded like he and his brothers would like to show up and his father might be the one showing up," he said. Leaving the organizer in the dark, Hinata said, "Really? I've wanted to meet him. We'll need a lot of room then." He inquired once more, wanting to know, "So who is it then?" But his query was still disregarded. Hinata pointed to a region on the map and said, "So, Naruto-kun, will this area be enough?" Hinata nodded, sketched out the setup on the map, and left the organizer with the scroll without ever responding to his question. "That should be just fine. This way we can completely remove the usual guards to save on manpower since no one would be stupid enough to attack him." The rest of the day continued much the same as things began to come together. Hinata was issuing commands and reviewing the plans. The couple sat down to converse in the comfortable chairs in the common area of the manor as dusk was drawing near. "So are you and the girls going to do something tonight?" asked Naruto. "Yes, they aren't doing anything wild so it should be okay. How about you?" "I don't know, but I have a feeling it is going to be wilder than I want it to be since I know something big is going to happen." "What do you mean by that?" "Not sure myself, but I guess I'll find out." A young Hyuga burst into the room in a panic. Before taking off again, the young man warned Naruto-sama, "There are a bunch of guys here for you. One of them is really big." With Hinata at his heels, Naruto rose and hurried to the door, where Jiraiya and the majority of the male ninjas were waiting for him. The white-haired pervert yelled, "Hey brat, I hope you're ready for a party. I know you're going to be doing some drinking tonight." When Naruto saw off a huge figure in the distance, his smile vanished. With a terrified expression, he said, "Aw shit, Hinata-chan, did you master that medical jutsu that removes alcohol's effects from the body yet?" "Yeah, why?" "Because, by the look of things, I'm going to be royally drunk when I get back. When I thought something big was going to happen, I was right. Looks like it is time to cement the summoning contract of Gamabunta and his family." Naruto was then drugged out by Jiraiya for his celebration. Just a few minutes later, Hinata experienced the same thing, but in a far more respectable manner. The main activities at Hinata's party were talking and other girly activities. In Naruto's case, everyone was intoxicated and away from civilization, allowing Lee to get wasted along with the others. When her party was over, Hinata smiled and went back to her room. She heard a loud thump near the door. Just as she was ready to settle into a chair, she saw her fiancé trying to get up after falling, so she ran to it and threw it open. She bent down to help him up, saying, "Naruto-kun," but he simply fell again, dragging her down on top of him. He slurred as he tried to push her away, saying, "Hey thar purty lady, I get married tomorrow. Can you stay off me? My girl only for me." Caringly, she said, "Naruto, you're drunk, let me help you." "No, I don't need no help from Shum Bimbo. I need to go home. I got wedding morrow." She pulled him up once more, drugged his incooperative body into the room, and pushed him down on the bed. "I am Hinata, your fiancé. Now let's get you to bed. I'll try to remove some of the effects of the alcohol." To help dissolve some of the alcohol in his blood, she held her hands over his abdomen and made a few hand signals. Naruto became more lucid, but he was still obviously drunk. "Oh, I am so never drinking again. I don't know why those guys like doing this. You can't think straight, let alone talk straight, and who knows who or what Kiba is going to wake up next to in the morning. It is just completely stupid to do this. I don't get it. Make sure you don't ever drink. I don't want you to not think straight. Besides, bad stuff can happen around drunken people," he said with a groggy face. Hinata tasted the alcohol on his lips as she leaned down to kiss them. She stuck out her tongue in disgust and said, "Blah, you taste like alcohol and you smell like it too." Naruto got up and almost fell while attempting to stumbling into the shower. "Sorry, I think a good shower might help metabolize some more alcohol with the help of Kyuubi's chakra. I'll go get clean." He was somewhat of a hangover when he returned, but he was refreshed. "Hey Hinata." Naruto noticed that she was lightly snoring while dozing off in the chair. He walked up to her and gazed at her serene face. He picked up her tiny body and carried her to their bed, where he undressed her for sleep without her waking up at all. "Come on gorgeous, let's grab some sleep, we'll need it." He joined her in bed, took her by the hand, held her firmly, and fell asleep while thinking about the important day that lay ahead. Hinata's birthday and wedding day, December 27, 018, AC. As everyone hurried to every part of the building to take care of the final details, the Hyuga Manor was a hive of activity. The couple woke up from their sleep to the commotion outside the door. He kissed his soon-to-be wife and said, "Hey beautiful, it's your big day today." She kissed him back and said, "You're not supposed to see me on my wedding day." Naruto took a small box from under his pillow and handed it to Hinata, saying, "As far as I'm concerned, it isn't your wedding day yet. Right now it's your birthday. Happy birthday, Angel." She gazed at the item as she opened the tiny box. Gazing at the sophisticated necklace with an odd glassy white gem hanging from it, she questioned, "It's beautiful, but what is it?" "That would be a rare stone I found from a missing nin in Iwa. When I was Ranto I had it made into a necklace for you in Konoha. It should look perfect on you when we get married today. Now I suppose I should leave you since Hanabi and the others will be here shortly to get you dressed and they'll kill me if I'm here." Hinata pushed him on his back and rubbed his lips for a few minutes before releasing him, saying, "I guess you're right, but you'll need this." He gave her another quick kiss, hurriedly changed into sweatpants and a t-shirt, and hurried out the door, grinning broadly. "Wow, that was good. I guess I'll see you again later. I'll be the one waiting for the most beautiful girl in the world in front of a big crowd." Naruto ended up in one of the manors surrounding gardens. He lay back in the lush grass, still grinning, and closed his eyes, focusing on the slight breeze that blew through his hair. Naruto was so at ease that he didn't notice the time until he felt a kick to his ribs. "Hey Dobi, you have about an hour until the wedding starts. You should get ready or you'll miss it," the blonde asked, oblivious to the time. "Oh shit, hey Sasuke, what are you doing here?" Sasuke extended his hand and helped the blonde stand up, saying, "I came early to make sure you weren't an idiot and miss your own wedding." "Damn, you really have changed since I left. Before you would have just left me there." "Humph, it's your fault. Now get going or Hinata will surely kill me." As Naruto fled, vanishing into the building, the normally emotionless Uchiha oddly smiled when he said, "You wouldn't be the only one to die." To distract himself from what was about to happen, he hastily prepared himself and was now standing outside in the exquisitely landscaped grassy field behind the manor, greeting some of their guests. Naruto turned around with a broad smile and said, "Pardon me, my boy, I've heard you are replacing Ranto for this marriage and would like to introduce myself." The blonde yelled, "Kenji-san," and seized him in an embrace. The older Tsuchikage simply stared at the blonde inquisitively, trying to understand how he knew so much about them. "Did that womanizer Santon come with you?" he asked. To get the blonde to relax, he said, So you are Naruto then, right?" Kenji's eyes widened as he examined the similarities between the two. "Oh, my bad. Well, to make a long story short, half of me spent a few years with you. You knew me as Ranto and I found where my memories went." The older man said, "We'll need to talk later after I get my mind around this." As more guests took their seats, the Tsuchikage simply nodded stupidly and said, "You bet, I have a few others to meet with right now, so I'll see you later." To try to relax a little, Naruto made the decision to distance himself from everyone. By the time Iruka arrived, Naruto was in a remote section of the same field, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. "So Naruto, getting nervous?" inquired the Chunin with the scar. "You still have that ring I gave you to hold on to?" Iruka felt in his pocket and took out the ring, showing it to him. "Hey Iruka-sensei, I think I am more anxious than nervous. I really want to get married to her, so I can't sit still when I think about it." "Good. How much longer do I have to wait?" "You are anxious. Well, Gamabunta and a few smaller toads just got here, so we should probably get going." The blonde said, "Yeah, so how did Gamabunta get here? Because he didn't sense a summons." Naruto simply nodded as the two moved to the front of the room, standing next to Tsunade, who was officiating the wedding. "Boss, summons don't need to be summoned if they have an invitation. They have the chakra to summon themselves." "You ready for this, brat?" the Hokage asked, observing his demeanor. Tsunade simply grinned and leaned in closer, saying, "You bet, you couldn't get me to walk away even if you bribed me with the position of Hokage." Naruto smiled back, saying, "I don't think anything could tear you away after you see her today. They've got her looking so beautiful that she is to the point that everyone will believe you that she is the most beautiful of all the kunoichi." A moment later, the music began to draw everyone's attention to the back, where the blushing and smiling Hyuga heiress was the center of attention. Her hair was worn up with the typical strands framing her elegant face, and she wore traditional wedding attire with minimal makeup. Although she had the appearance that anyone would desire, he found her most attractive because of the smile and blush. His mouth was hanging open as he watched Neji lead her to him. Even though he was unaware of it at the time, with a quiet giggle, he watched Hinata approach him, her blush deepening as she reached forward and pushed his mouth shut. He simply stared into her eyes and performed the act of putting the ring on her finger, with nothing else on his mind. It was just him and her. After he finished the very light open-mouthed kiss that signified the end of the wedding, the world phased back into his mind. They retreated down the aisle to greet all of the guests, and Naruto took her hand since it only took a large amount of food to be brought out and instantly transformed into the reception. The space was set up effectively. Hinata introduced him to some of the affluent individuals the Hyuga invited, the ones who weren't ostentatious, while Naruto introduced her to the few strangers, who just so happened to be the Tsuchikage and several toads. Since Choji was full and there was still food left, the reception went well and there was an abundance of food. Sadly, there weren't enough sweet desserts to share, but the little fat toads didn't mind because they had enough. Jiraiya and Tsunade approached Naruto, who was now seated in a chair talking to Kenji while Hinata was dozing off on his lap and occasionally kissing his neck. "Alright brat, we found a gift for you too." Tsunade gave Naruto a key. "Before you ask, it is the key to a small getaway house your father used for creating jutsus, or if he just wanted to get away. The house is covered in jutsu to keep unwanted guests out, and as such, you won't be able to use Hirshin to go to and from the house without marking it specifically. Gamabunta knows the way there so he can show you before he goes back home." He smiled and said, "Hey thanks, that will be perfect, absolutely no interruptions, just me and Hinata." The Hokage pushed them in the direction of the enormous toad and said, "That's the idea. Gamakichi already brought your clothes you had packed over there, so don't worry about that, just get out of here you two." They positioned themselves on him, and after 3 exhilarating leaps, they arrived at the tiny house before he vanished. They each thanked the boss toad. "Well Hinata, here we are." He rushed into the house, locking the door behind them, and suddenly lifted Hinata in his arms to make their first encounter unforgettable. They agreed to take brief separate showers. Only a few pairs of boxers, a few pairs of underwear, and a little note were discovered when they opened their suitcase. "Dear Hinata and Naruto, this is what my mother recommended when I asked her what I should get you two for your wedding. I hope you understand, even though I don't." A tiny, webbed handprint was all that was signed on the little note. Hinata simply blushed and nodded before grabbing a pair of lavender ones and running to take a shower, but Naruto beat her there because he wanted to take a shower first. "Well, I guess it isn't all bad, we probably would have been dressed like this anyways." She was okay with it because she pouted and then grinned after receiving the kiss she desired as Hinata attempted to pass him to enter the bathroom but was pinned to the wall. Naruto emerged from the restroom wearing the boxers that had been left for him. After gently massaging the back of her neck with his arm, he engulfed her lips and withdrew. He reached out and took out her hairpins, letting the length fall down as he ran his fingers through it. "I never told you this today, but you looked amazing. I've never seen you with your hair up. It is very sexy, but looks slightly uncomfortable." He kissed her again and pushed her to the bathroom so she could take a shower, saying, "As sexy as it may look up, I like it better when I can touch it." Naruto couldn't take his eyes off her as she returned to the room, drying her hair with a towel, her chest bare, her face slightly flushed. Despite the fact that he had seen her naked numerous times, she tried to conceal her flinch when she felt pain in her back from a sore muscle and went to pick up the towel after dropping it. "Are you hurt, Hinata?" he inquired, his face displaying worry. She lied and said, "No." Naruto approached her and gazed into her eyes while holding her shoulders. Hinata attempted to avoid making eye contact but eventually gave in. "Are you lying to me, Angel?" Her husband laughed as she complained, "I think I strained a muscle in my back. Please don't say we can't have sex because of it." He kissed the tip of her nose and said, "You are so cute when you whine like that." He said, "But you are right, we can't have sex if you're in pain. Too bad." His lovely wife nearly started crying after he finished speaking with compassion. He lifted her light body and carried her to the bed, where he placed her face down. However, she quickly rolled onto her back. He kissed her briefly and rolled her back over, but she rolled back with a smile on her face the instant he released his hold a little harder this time. He rolled her back. "Now stay there before I tie you up." When she felt his palms firmly press against her very lower back and drug them up her entire back, she asked, "Why?" He then rubbed her shoulders and dragged the tips of his fingers back down her back to begin again. About 15 minutes later, he stopped and leaned into her ear after she had been moaning and groaning with every pass he made. He whispered, "How are your muscles now?" She answered, "Much better, I can barely feel it." Warning. Full citrus action, reaches the chapter's conclusion. Good. He licked the back of her ear slowly, making her shiver with anticipation, then moved down to begin kissing her shoulder and down her neck before rolling her over and controlling her tiny pink lips as she slid her tongue past his lips. She put her arms around his neck and held him there. She finally released him after almost 3 minutes, but he persisted for a few more seconds before separating. The brief break ended when he kissed her bottom lip and licked it lightly before moving his lips down her chin to her neck and sucking on her skin by her throat, feeling it vibrate with her pleasurable sounds before gently licking the underside of her right breast and lightly pressing his fingers across the underside of her other breast. He kissed down her sternum, between her breasts. as he gently kneaded one of his tongues while wriggling the other around her breast and circling her nipple, getting closer with each revolution. She felt the heat rising inside of her. He switched sides before he could get to her darker skin, tracing his fingers across the thick nipple of her right breast and licking and kissing around her left similar to the other side. He paused and moved to the other, licking the now hard nipple before grabbing hold of it and using his tongue to massage it. Hinata groaned as she felt each breast being touched, her breaths becoming more rapid. She screamed when he sucked hard on her sensitive skin, but she was enjoying the slight discomfort and the pleasure of the act, so the pain wasn't really felt without releasing her flesh from his mouth. He rolled her over on top of him when she removed them from him. She began to laugh and giggle. She then dangled her soft mounds in his face, and he attempted to kiss them but failed each time. She whimpered when he finally got one and sucked really hard on it. He questioned, "Was that too hard?" She rubbed the injured area after giving a slow affirmative nod. As she pressed her breasts against the wall at the head of the bed, he grabbed her round ass firmly and slid her to a kneeling position above his face, saying, "I'm sorry, I'll make it better." He moved the lavender lace aside so he could see her wet slit. She shifted her hips to bring him to the places she wanted the attention to be on, and as he slid his tongue over the slippery skin, a heavy moan escaped her lips. She began to shudder after a few more passes up and down her folds, and then she screamed in ecstasy as his tongue slithered inside her. Reluctantly, after catching her breath, she moved away from him and leaned down to give him a passionate chest rub and a kiss on his face. She proceeded down, occasionally kissing his body, until she came to the only piece of clothing. His groans became more intense as she began to massage his bulge through his boxers and attempted to lick and suck his manhood through the material. After deciding that enough teasing was enough, Hinata carefully removed his shorts, exposing his rigid shaft. Remembering the first time she touched him, she slid her hand gently over his head and grinned when it moved in her hand before pulling him deeper inside and slipping it back out. She slowly lowered him into her warm mouth and began to gently suck and massage the head. She felt her panties being pulled down to her knees when she slid it back and she raised one leg, and he slipped them past it before doing it again with the other leg. He lifted her and laid her on his chest, her sensitive opening within centimeters of his warm breath, holding her legs next. She shivered eagerly as the damp air rushed over her sensitive skin, but she shivered even more when he merely rubbed the backs of her thighs. He was teasing her by avoiding the exact spot he was staring at, and she was doing her best not to push herself onto his face. He touched her moist flesh with his heavenly tongue, caressing every millimeter. Just as she was about to lose control, she wriggled helplessly as he accelerated his pace on her skin and focused especially on her tiny nub. She accelerated along with him, but fortunately she experienced her orgasm first and finished screaming before his fluid poured into her mouth and down her throat. She came up to him, grinned, and gave him a full lip kiss before resting her head on his chest. She looked up at him and asked, "Ready for more?" While playing with her hair, he answered, "Kind of anxious, are you?" "You aren't?" she responded in jest. "You can't tell?" he asked, grinning. It wasn't until Hinata noticed that he was still very eager for more that she realized what he was talking about. They turned back to him and exchanged a smile. "Like a kid requesting a toy," she said. "So can I?" Her smile widened, and she threw her leg over him, straddling him, while she ground herself on his stiff shaft. "We are married, aren't we? Just don't overdo yourself." She felt warm inside again as she felt him so close to her. She raised herself up and reached underneath herself, grasping him and guiding it to her opening. She used his member to rub herself up and down before properly positioning it and applying pressure as she lowered herself as it resisted the intrusion. She increased her weight on it until she felt it finally slide into her by about an inch. She started crying after a sudden jolt of pain went through her body. "Please, Naruto-kun, hold me so I don't move, it hurts." He put his hand on her in a supporting manner and nodded, having already activated the birth control jutsu in the shower. She swiftly went over the hand signs and activated the numbing jutsu. She touched her pelvic area with a single glowing finger to relieve the pain. She pushed herself down, smiling a little, and eased the next few inches until she had half of him inside with minimal discomfort. With a quick downward thrust, she took in the final half, squirming at the bearable pain that followed. She took a few deep breaths, raised herself halfway again, and then thrust herself down without experiencing any pain. Since the jutsu numbs all emotions, she chose to release it. After performing the same motion a few more times, she felt some pain when she released it, but mostly she was tired from using the technique for longer than she had planned. She lay down exhausted, resting her head on his shoulder, pressing her breasts against his chest, kissing his neck lightly, and letting her legs drop so that she could put all of her weight on him. "I'm tired, but it doesn't hurt anymore," she said softly in his ear. "Do you want to stop then?" She kissed his neck once more after telling him, "Not unless I have to." With her groaning softly in his ear, he put his arms behind her and pulled her slightly higher on him, Allowing about half of her to slide out of her, she looked up to see what he was doing, but he grabbed her head and led her back to his shoulder, where he ran his fingers up and down her spine with one hand and stroked her hair with the other. He felt her muscles loosen up as he caressed her earlobe, and she rubbed his neck with her lips. Just relax. I can feel you tensing up. We've made it to this point. We're not going to stop. He began to slowly shift his hips, pressing himself against her and gradually retraction, even though there was very little movement. Just a few inches. It was obviously enough to make her go crazy. The heat was building inside her like never before, and she was making more noise than ever before from the slow, sensual movement. As Hinata's slow movements deepened and accelerated, she raised herself into the air to give him more space before she reached the most enjoyable moment of her life. She was yelling loudly. She bit his shoulder lightly and bucked and moved wildly as he pushed deeply for his release. With a blissful sigh, she lost control of her limbs and fell hard on him. He played with her hair once more and asked, "So how was it?" "Slightly awkward at first, but it was better than I imagined. How about you?" He began by saying, "You felt amazing." However, he soon realized that she was sleeping, with her lips touching his neck after stroking her soft cheek and letting his arm drop to his side as he felt sleep take over. He ran his hand down her bare back and said, "You're still amazing, Angel." January 3, 2019 AC. Hinata spent the remainder of the week doing as her sensei instructed. The couple spent time together in addition to eating and sleeping. They discovered a big hot tub in the house and spent a lot of time in it, making it a common place for them to have sex, along with almost every other area of the tiny house. They had the same issue with almost everything they did, including taking showers together, where they were typically unable to keep their hands off one another. In essence, they couldn't get enough of each other and were addicted to it. At the end of the week, after almost constant sex, Hinata was feeling pretty sore, but she loved every moment of how that soreness developed. This addiction is very healthy for a married couple. They were meant to depart on this day, but there was a major issue. They only had a pair of underwear each and no other clothing. At the moment, Naruto was seated in a chair, and Hinata was on the floor at his feet, rubbing her shoulders, when they heard a knock on the door. When Hinata jumped onto Naruto's back to peek over his shoulder and conceal herself from whoever it was, he realized that they weren't dressed for company. Naruto had lost his newly acquired common sense and had gotten up to answer the door. The blonde opened the door to find Tsunade standing in the doorway, since that had already been resolved. Surprised, Naruto said, "Hey Ba-chan, what are you doing here? Don't you have Hokage stuff to take care of?" She said gravely, "Well, I need to talk to you too, that's why." He looked around suspiciously and said, "Oh, are you alone?" She replied, "Yes." "Good." Naruto shut the door after she got inside, went back to the chair, placed Hinata on the floor, and began massaging her once more as she flushed from being topless with the Hokage. Based on their attire, the Hokage questioned, "I'm not interrupting anything, am I?" "No, we were supposed to return today, but Gamakichi played a prank on us by taking all our clothes but what we're wearing," Naruto responded. Looking at Hinata, she remarked, "That would explain your state of dress, but I probably would put too much on with that body." Hinata, flushed, said, "Why does everyone keep saying that?" He picked her up from behind and placed her on his lap, where she curled up and rested her head in the crook of his neck while he tenderly rubbed her bare back. "Because you're gorgeous, Angel. Why else would they say that?" He asked the beaming Hokage, who was observing the couple's exchange. "So what did you want to talk to us about?" "Oh, well, it seems there have been no reports of your creatures yet, but there is a mass of energy emanating from a location we can't pinpoint for some reason, and we think it is the artifacts that were stolen. We believe it is some kind of summoning artifact that opens the way from a different dimension, so this is most likely how they get here for your battle," the petite blonde explained. "Well, crap, I liked having the peace and quiet with my beautiful wife. I suppose we should be going then. By any chance do you have something for Hinata to wear?" replied he. "I think I might have something, but it will be quite revealing on her. What will you wear though?" Naruto quickly calls forth his clothes and discovers that while the black pants fit well, his white t-shirt fits snugly enough to display the well-defined muscles from years of training. "I have a scroll with a pair of pants and a shirt from training with Jiraiya that I can summon. I just hope they still fit." "Well, I guess they still fit, just a little small. What do you think, Hinata?" Naruto turned to face her and almost passed out at the sight of them. "I really like them. It shows off your hard work, but I think they look better than mine." Tsunade never explained how her possessions were revealing when she claimed that they were. Although Hinata was dressed simply in black shorts, his response was prompted by the jacket she wore. She whirled around, blushing, and asked, "What do you think, Naruto-kun?" Since she was only wearing the jacket, her skin was exposed from her neck to her waist, and the simple tan jacket was made to be left open, so it was too small to close, leaving a 5-inch gap that barely covered her ample chest. As he ran a finger down her bare skin to get her to giggle, he said, "Well, I think that crazy Jonin, Anko, will be jealous that you pull off her look so well." Her smile said, "So you think I look good? Gorgeous. I'd bet that the first guy that sees you, other than me, will knock themselves out from blood loss, but if they look too long it might be from something other than that," he said with a grin. The married couple briefly locked lips before the blonde turned to face the Hokage. "Although it is slightly revealing, I really like how it feels. I think I might wear something like this again, even if it is mostly just around you." He embraced his wife tightly and declared, "Well, Ba-chan, if we are to return to Konoha today, we need to go before I take Hinata out of these clothes again." Tsunade led the way out of the tiny house, but not before Naruto left his replica of the Hirshin seal so he could return with ease. "That's settled then. I'm not waiting for you guys to do that, so let's go." Hinata jumped on Naruto's back as they began their journey down the trail, putting her arms loosely around his neck and her legs around his waist. She whispered in his ear, "I love you." Her head fell limp on his shoulder after she grunted quietly, "Love you too, Angel. You comfortable?" Tsunade's expression was odd and inquisitive as she gazed at them. He continued to carry his sleeping wife while responding, She is subtle in saying she is tired." They ran in silence for the next 3 hours until the village's gates came into view. Before the couple made some noise, Tsunade said, "You should probably wake up your wife now." Naruto wriggled and squirmed until he was away from his sulky wife. "She is awake, and she's sucking on my neck." While he was still cleaning off the moisture she left behind, the reddish patch on his neck gradually disappeared. "Hey, I was having fun. It isn't like they stay there anyways." Naruto helped his wife stand, then met her pouting face and said, "I don't care what you do to me behind closed doors, but we'll be in public soon, and since you're the Hyuga head now, you need to act like it in front of everyone." He moved quickly and planted a deep kiss on the protruding bottom lip, saying, "And Hyuga heads don't pout." Letting go, he noticed that a smile had taken the place of the pout. He simply grinned and drew her in as they walked to Konoha, his arm around her. "I suppose you're right, Naruto-kun. But once we're in bed the facade is over." The guards instantly collapsed to the ground, drooling from their mouths as the couple and Tsunade entered the gates. "Hey Ba-chan, I think you should make sure to have one female guard on duty. That was way too easy," Naruto said. The Hokage made a note to chastise the two Chunin at the gate and replied, "I will definitely look into it." The three kept moving through the town until they were stopped in their tracks by a strong chakra surge. The pair vanished in a cloud of smoke. "This is the energy from the shadow dimension. The dimensional rift has started early, Hinata. We need to get ready for the battle as soon as possible." Tsunade did the same and flew to the Hokage tower to convene an urgent meeting. An hour later, all of the typical high-level Jonin were crammed into the office. "I'm sure you have all felt the chakra spike earlier today. It is our belief that this is the opening of a dimensional rift to the shadow dimension. Within the next few hours we will be sending a group to intercept whatever comes out of the rift. As much as it goes against everything I know, only Naruto and Hinata will go to fight them. This is what they have been training for over the past months. The rest of you will be strengthening the defense of the village in case something goes wrong with their battle." Tsunade made the announcement. Shikamaru asked, "Wouldn't it be prudent to send more than 2?" No one else spoke as the group filed out of the office, leaving the Hokage, Jiraiya, and the married couple. "No, under normal circumstances it would be. But these beings will be far from normal. Naruto is the only person equipped with jutsus to combat the threat. As such, it should only be him and a single person in support to avoid friendly attacks. Since Hinata works well with him, they are the logical choices." You are all dismissed. Naruto, Hinata, be careful. "You know, this isn't how it was supposed to happen, so I can't predict that we will make it out. I will assure you that none of those creatures will make it to the village," said Naruto. The couple then quietly departed. "Jiraiya, go and keep an eye on them. I have a feeling something is going to go wrong. Something just isn't right, almost like we are living a fake life and someone is just watching from the sidelines," instructed Tsunade. Jiraiya hurried off, leaving Tsunade to wonder what lay ahead. "I've been having that same feeling since the Kyuubi attack, almost like it wasn't supposed to happen starting from Naruto's birth, but I just thought it was my age." "Hinata, I don't like this feeling I have. Something bad is going to happen. I would tell you to wait behind for me, but I know I will need you. Besides, you wouldn't let me?" said Naruto. Squeezing hands and grinning, the two hurried to meet their adversary. "You were right, my love. We will do this together and come out of it together." After a half hour of running, they arrived at a vast, leveled forest where a large number of dark creatures were assembling and emerging from the whirling emptiness. The figures came into view as they drew closer. A vast horde of tiny, black, yellow-eyed creatures, think of those little, callous guys from Kingdom Hearts, stood in front of them. At that moment, 3 vampiric creatures of average height materialized, dressed in ragged black garments, thanks to a number of suggestions, each clutching a chain that attached to a single collar around the neck of a gigantic beast that stood a story tall. This creature had an elephant-like build and a horned head that looked like a ram's, which was obviously demonic. Its front legs resembled hands, and its back legs were almond like a buffalo. If you Google horned demon, you'll find a creature from Might and Magic. Imagine that as a dark shadow creature. Once the beast had finished emerging, more of the tiny black creatures kept spilling out. After a quick kiss, Naruto leapt from the hiding place and ran through hand signs that ended in an odd sign. Hinata, those little guys will be your target. They should be able to be destroyed, but leave the other 4 to me. I will start out by stopping the creatures from coming out. From that point just do some damage and destroy as many as you can. Dimension door. The blonde was the center of attention as his own swirling void appeared in front of the other, causing every creature entering the gate to step into it and return to their dimension. His wife joined him with Byakugan flaring shortly after he landed in the clearing. The blonde adamantly declared, "You are intruding in our land. Please remove yourself or we will remove you ourselves." One of the 3 cloaked beings exhaled, "We will not leave. This world is now ours." Naruto led off with a handful of shuriken, eliminating some of the small creatures as they exploded into smoke like shadow clones. He then descended and used straight-up taijutsu to tear through a handful of the little bastards, while Hinata followed a few feet away. Well, then let's party. It seems that some of the little guys were much more resilient than others, making it difficult to beat them with a single blow. While Naruto concentrated on some of the Kyuubi chakra, which caused his fingernails to grow into tiny daggers as he continued to tear through the thousands of fodder creatures. Hinata had to step it up a notch and began using chakra in her attacks as the tiny creatures surrounded them. The couple found themselves back to back. His voice grunted in agreement as he said, "Well, I guess their idea is to tire us out with the worthless ones while they wait to finish us off." Naruto took out the hilt that Ranto was carrying and pushed the Kyuubi chakra into the sword, creating a translucent red blade. "I guess we should step it up a little more." When Hinata saw the sword using the Byakugan, she inquired, "When did you find out you could do that?" Before rushing forward and destroying tens in every slash, he responded, "I figured this out when you were preparing the wedding." Using a small bladed sword that Naruto gave her on the anniversary of his alleged death, Hinata followed him and defeated the people he missed on their charge to the leaders and their pet. They eventually arrived at the location of the 4 higher class beings after slicing through at least 50 more creatures. "Okay. You jerks are next." Without waiting for a response, the blonde hurled 3 kunai at one of the vampire humanoid's feet and vanished, only to reappear and continue slashing and repeating until she came to a stop in front of the creatures while it appeared that nothing had been harmed. As he watched the 3 humanoids unhitch the leashes from the beast, he received a nod in return. "Well damn, just as I thought. These guys are ones that can't be destroyed. Hinata, keep those little shits off me while I try some stuff on these guys." Aw crap. Naruto vanished once more in a flash, but he dropped out earlier than normal and charged at one of the cloaked creatures, landing a powerful dropkick that sent it flying back into its dimension through the portal. He hurried away from the enemy group and turned to see the creature who had spoken earlier leap upon the enormous beast, while the other one withdrew a weapon resembling a scythe and prepared to attack. Well, that's one down. While Hinata was frantically beating down the hundreds of tiny creatures that were leaping towards the blonde, Naruto divided the hilt and added his chakra once more, creating 2 reddened blades. "I guess I can step it up another notch." The beast growled, "Our turn," before countless black spears shot outward toward the Kyuubi vessel. Darkness spear. Spikes protruded from the beast's neck. The attack caught Naruto off guard, and he swiftly activated the Hiashi, only to reappear mid-slash from the scythe user. He quickly twisted in midair, slashing outward with one blade and half-heartedly deflecting the slash with the other. Naruto grabbed his shoulder cut by the scythe after landing hard just outside the portal. When the assailant kicked the bastard into the portal, his target simply reappeared behind him, so he was unable to deliver the fatal blow. "That's 2 down." Naruto got up more slowly this time because he discovered that his Hiashi needed too much chakra and wasn't yet fully mastered. He only had enough chakra left for one of his new dimensional attacks because of that and the significant amount that was used to keep the swords and portal open. At that moment, he saw the beast staring at him as his tamer yelled, "Darkness flame." A massive ball of black fire shot toward him, but it never made contact, and a girl with dark hair moved in front of him, her defenses fully engaged, gasping for air. When he noticed how exhausted she was, he called out to her, "Hinata, are you okay?" Still suppressing the dark flame, she responded, "Kind of, but I can't keep this defense up for much longer. I'm drained of chakra." He assumed a thinking pose and came up with numerous ideas, but he threw them all out at once. I'm not any better, I only have enough for one-dimensional attack that will send those last few back, but I need a clean shot. When Hinata spoke to him, his thoughts stopped. I can only think of one way for this to work. I will have to distract it until you can launch your jutsu, she said with sadness. As the flame continued to burn, he asked in the same dejected tone, does your idea lead to your death like all my ideas did? Naruto hung his head in defeat, knowing that everything she said was true but not wanting to face the reality that his wife would no longer be there. Yes. I can only hold the defense for a little longer and it will be shortened drastically as I move to cover you. I'm sorry, but this is how it must be if I choose to live. Konoha will fall. You know full well that the lives of all our friends outweigh a single life. Try not to take it too hard and live on for me. He cried as he gave her a final kiss and leapt out from behind her defense with his jutsu ready for dimension transfer. He heard his wife's horrifying screams as her defense collapsed, burning her with black flames, and his jutsu flew out and contacted the remaining intruders. I know you're right. I will try to survive. You will be known to us all as an angel. Naruto fell to his knees, tears streaming from his eyes, as he ran to her without even noticing the enemy being swept away by the swirl of darkness and sent back to their realm. He couldn't stand to look at her charred, lifeless body any longer, so he began slashing and hacking at the dimensional device until it fell to pieces, shutting off the portal. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to protect you. It was always you protecting me. He cancelled his dimension door and went back to his deceased wife. After closing the portal, he removed his jacket, wrapped it around her petite body, picked her up carefully, and gave her a hug before leaving for the village. The Hokage welcomed him to the village, believing everything had gone according to plan. Naruto gazed at his wife with pained eyes and asked, so did your battle go well? I see your wife is sleeping. Before Tsunade intervened, he carried her through the crowd, saying, yes, she's sleeping, permanently. He handed her body over reluctantly, saying, I'm sorry, Naruto, you can't handle this. Let me take her. Naruto nodded and walked off without a real direction, saying, now go and try to collect yourself before tomorrow when we have the funeral. Please be strong for her like she was for you when you died. January 4 to 19, AK. During the funeral, Naruto was operating automatically as everyone paid their respects and departed the area. He felt nothing. Only Tsunade and Sakura remained. Sakura pulled him into an embrace before she left, saying, she is gone. Naruto, please realize that and grieve for her. If you don't, you could destroy yourself. The Hokage left him to his thoughts and vanished, saying, you know Naruto, she is right. With all your knowledge of the future to prevent this, you still couldn't. Maybe she was destined to die that day. As he thought about that statement, he started crying again. Destiny. Maybe she really was destined to die. Naruto wept until he raised his head to the sky, saying, destiny? If she was destined to die, then I was destined to lose to Neji. I can't accept this. He put his face in his hands and sobbed until he could feel and hear nothing more. Assholes, I make my own destiny. I choose what happens in my life. WHO, are you to say WHO lives and dies? Haven't I suffered enough? He exclaimed. Anyone could be saved from the verge of madness by the uncanny silence. He noticed that the leaves on the trees were completely still when he looked up his hands, and he recognized a strange but familiar man standing in front of him. Naruto asked, his eyes watery, who are you? Unfortunately, you are in the same boat countless others have been in. We are tuned into a different reality letting us manipulate time and space. My name is Naruto. I am you 10 years in the future and I was the one that sent you the letter. Every time I change something, another parallel reality comes into existence, but the result is the same. I will teach you to become a traveler like me and hopefully together we can find a solution to all this, he responded. So you are basically me. I can buy part of it but I will not become you. You have failed, whereas I will change my destiny. Like I have said before, I write my own life. If you have all this ability, why can't you stop it? Why just a cryptic letter? If there are so many realities that you have seen, then there are more like you. Why can't you all fix it together? The real Naruto responded. We can't, this is how it was written, and you must try from here. The future Naruto stared at him incredulously before the area began to fill with various future Narutos. What the hell are you talking about? I lost my wife, I caused pain in everything, and you say you can't change a single aspect. We beat Neji in the Chunin exams. And we even changed Tsunade's mind and got her to be the Hokage when she thought it was a worthless job. We have a freaking demon stuck inside us and you say it is beyond us to save the most important thing in our lives? One was missing an arm, and another had an eye patch. They kept appearing while glancing at one another. Naruto, you are the real one, only you have the power to change destiny. We never defeated Neji, and the Kyuubi never attacked so early in our lives. In your timeline I see that Orochimaru did something that disrupted the fabric of reality. There really should only be one timeline. But as you can see there are countless ones. We must act fast before everything collapses from all of us occupying the same area. Now that we have found the right person, we can fix the events of your life, sending you to your correct timeline and restoring everything to its rightful place. Huh? Ha ha ha. I know it is hard to figure out, just trust me, you will go to a timeline different from your own. But it should have been yours from the start. Things will be different, but Hinata will be alive. Do you want to go there? Asked Naruto in the future. You don't really need to ask. All of the future Naruto's present incarnations grinned as they all performed hand seals at once and began an odd chant. Discover the things that have happened, let those things go that didn't need to be done. To undo it, reverse its direction, put this mortal back where he belongs. Where his spirit desires to be, rebind the time and space chains. Combining all of this to live in one. Things will be quite different when you get there. Live well. After those last words, the area went dark and devoid of light, leaving only a steady beep that sounded like the flat lining of a heart monitor. There were people present, but there was a sudden sharp beep followed by another until the beeping became steady and the darkness began to give way to dazzling light. He noticed that he was in the hospital when his eyes began to focus, and then he felt a tight pressure wrap around himself. "Na Naruto-kun. Why, you're awake? I thought I lost why you? How come?" His wife was stuttering. Naruto was thrilled to find her alive. There was a problem. She blushed and pulled away from him, hanging her head. Hinata, what are you doing?" she asked. He was shocked to hear, "I'm sorry and Naruto-kun. I forgot why you don't like hugs." Apparently, things were different here, but to what extent? He grabbed the back of her head and pulled her face to his, locking their lips as she blushed deeply. "Hinata, come here. I need to tell you something." She leaned a little closer, but she said, "No closer, it's a secret." When Hinata felt the unexpected touch, her eyes widened, but she melted into the kiss with ease. She was savoring every second, which was enhanced when her lips slightly opened as his tongue probed her. When Hinata sensed something unexpected again, she let her hands roam around his chest with reluctance. She released the blissful kiss. She abruptly pulled on his hospital gown, revealing his upper torso. "And Naruto-kun, is this really you? We've been engaged since we were 8, but you have always ignored my affection, and now you give me the most passionate and wonderful kiss in the world." She blushed as she ran her fingers lightly over his distinct muscles. "And when did you get muscles?" He was stumped and said, I trained hard to get these." "But you haven't trained since you failed out of Ninja Academy almost 9 years ago," she said. Hinata's face turned pale as he asked, "That is strange. Wait, what is that chakra spike I just felt?" Hinata hurried to stand, put on a white cat mask, and started to leave, but was stopped by a very strong hand. "Shit, that's Yondaime-sama. Your father. I think he just summoned the boss of the Toad Summons to fight the demon that just arrived a few moments ago. I was supposed to be at the front lines already, but I came to check on you." Naruto asked, pleasantly surprised, "Are you telling me the Yellow Flash, my father, is fighting the Kyuubi no Kitsune now?" Why yes, but how did you know it was a 9-tailed fox? You've been out cold for days." She squared her shoulders at him as he declared, "I'm coming with you." Naruto was taken aback by the directive, but he knew that his former self must not have been like him. "No, you are nothing in a ninja battle. You will stay here." Naruto quickly ran to the hospital closet and put on some clothes, ignoring her objections. Hinata stood there in shock as Naruto ran up to her, put his arms around her, and made a few hand signals before vanishing in a flash. "I'm going, Hinata-chan. Now hold on to me tight. This will be a rough landing." Hinata suddenly saw that she was falling with him toward the enormous toad and collided with his head while the older blonde was debating his summons. At last he saw the intruders and said, "What do you mean I'm dead? I'm standing right here now. Fight the demon with me." The Hokage demanded. "Naruto, Hinata, what are you doing here?" As the two gazed at the younger blonde, Hinata became enraged beneath her Anbu mask when the toad exclaimed, Naruto, how was your honeymoon?" They heard Gamabunta's loud bellows of laughter as he listened to the story. "Well, I can say it went well, but I think I will have to not treat Gamakichi anymore since he took all of our clothes, but I think your wife gave him the idea." "Well, it isn't like you had a need for clothes anyways. Now why is the Kyuubi attacking? Isn't he still sealed?" the toad inquired. Hinata glanced at her betrothed once more before taking off her mask. "Yes, the seal is still intact, but only you and I know what is going on. We are in a different timeline from the one we are used to." She was furious and asked, "What is going on? Have you been cheating on me?" The older blonde was stunned when Naruto pulled a special kunai from the Hokage's pouch and smeared his own blood across the seal. "No, angel. There was an event that screwed up the whole timeline I lived in my timeline. I was married to you about a week ago and we had a wonderful honeymoon, but you died in a battle that wasn't supposed to happen. I was distraught, and to make a long story short, there is now only this timeline like there should be, and I'm not exactly the Naruto you knew. Abruptly, Naruto simply smiled and threw the kunai at the fox. The Yondaime recognized the jutsu and lowered his jaw as Naruto vanished in a flash of yellow. I will take care of my old friend Kyuubi. While the toad was laughing, the older blonde asked, how the hell did he do that? The laughing toad saw the man almost faint and said, you should see what he has done with your Rasengan. He has added wind manipulation to it. Gamabunta, Hinata, and the Yondaime could see the enormous nine-tailed fox demon tearing through the countryside, destroying everything in its path. Although the three could hardly see Naruto's figure blocking its way, they could clearly hear him and shuddered at his disrespect for the demon. Hey you bastard fox! Get your worthless ass out of here. I don't waste my time on weak humans like you. I want to destroy all strong beings to prove I'm the strongest. I heard this place held the most powerful fighter in the world, so I came to fight. So, you oversized piece of shit, you truly were absolutely evil. How would you like to fight someone more powerful than him? Fight me since I am the vessel to a powerful demon? Hinata questioned. Hokage-sama, is Naruto really a demon vessel? As he watched the encounter, he responded, our previous one wasn't, but this one I don't know. Really? This may be interesting then. Tell me brat, which demon do you hold? The Yondaime gasped as Naruto continued. I have sealed inside of me the greatest demon that ever existed, the Kyuubi no Kitsune. A massive burst of chakra erupted from within the blonde as large tendrils of chakra formed 9 tails about his body, along with the large claws, fangs, and eyes of the demon. Since you asked so nicely, bastard, I'll tell you he was the most powerful being in existence until it was sealed inside of me after I was born, by my father, to save the village. Naruto couldn't think about it at the moment, but he was shocked to see all of his demon's chakra come to life all around him. His voice was raspy as he said, now tell me, how is it to look in the mirror, you murdering bastard? The Kyuubi looked into the blonde's eyes and saw his own reflection, but what most affected him was that he showed no signs of fear. The young ninja, in his opinion, was not at all afraid of the ultimate demon. The fox brought one of his own claws to bear and proceeded to swipe at the shinobi, only to find his paw stopping inches away. I've had enough of your lies, kid. I am here so I can't be sealed, now die. He said, what the hell? Why can't I strike you? My guess is that your chakra can't hurt me like it can't hurt you. Now I will give you the chance to leave all humans alone or be defeated by my hands. The demon laughed as he reared back to launch himself towards the village, only to feel a sharp pain all over his body. Well, I must admit you are as powerful as I am and I can't hurt you, but that won't stop me from killing everyone else in this village since the majority of your chakra can't hurt me as well. He turned to face Naruto and saw the glowing seal on his stomach as his shirt caught fire. What is this? Answer me. The fox cried in agony. The Kyuubi screamed louder as the seal formed on his head before he burst into a large plume of pure chakra and began filtering into Naruto's abdomen as he started to scream out, falling to his knees as all the red chakra retreated inside his body. This would be the seal that holds the Kyuubi within me with the help of my chakra and my will. Since you are also the Kyuubi, I can will you into the seal. Say hello to my Kyuubi when you get there. I'm sure you will have a lot to argue about, but don't think about escaping. He can't help you there. He felt himself nestled between soft flesh before his head hit the floor. As she held his head against her chest and stroked his spiky hair, Hinata began, Naruto-kun, in my dreams you had a hidden power and were hated by the village you loved for holding it within. I had many different dreams but none were the same. Recently they have gotten more intimate. Probably the weirdest and most embarrassing thing for me was one of them. Neji-ni-san walked in our bedroom and interrupted an act. Naruto gasped at the realization, then grinned and made her jump when he spoke to her. Hinata blushed when she was discovered disclosing one of her best-kept secrets to him. That was an embarrassing moment, but if I remember correctly, you didn't mind it for too long. Hinata's now bright red face simply nodded shyly when she said, I have a question to ask. Since you dreamt that moment, then you must have dreamt others. Tell me, do you really not have to shave? So all those dreams, they were your life? It was those dreams that caused me to love you deeply and long to be married to you. Why is it that I have the person I dreamt of for so long sitting right in front of me when I thought they were only dreams? She asked with complete astonishment. From what I can tell, your dreams are my life. Also I believe that when the jutsu was performed to bring me to a parallel timeline, your soul called out to mine and brought me to you. Your Naruto died and I took his place to heal the sorrow we both felt. We have each other again now, and I won't let you go. I want to marry you in this timeline and love you in every way you saw me love you in your dreams. She began to blush and simply chose to kiss him. His eyebrow went up in curiosity as he said, I would like that very much, but there are some things I'd like to try that you didn't do in my dreams. He inquired, and what would that be? She teased, then gave him a passionate, deep kiss before the current Hokage interrupted, saying, that, you will have to wait until we're married. The Yondaime was told, Naruto, we have a lot to discuss, including strengthening that seal you have. Naruto turned around and pinned his beloved to the ground before beginning a makeout session with her, who accepted avariciously, yes, father, we do. But right now I'm busy. The Yondaime had returned with a camera after they had finally parted. Hinata grinned, took off her Anbu mask, and stood beside him. He gave her a gentle embrace and gazed lovingly into her eyes before the camera started to record. Okay. You too. I need a picture of you both. The older blonde said, this will make a great picture. With a red face, she nodded in agreement, saying, I know, we've seen it before, it will look awesome. Won't it, Hinata-chan? The three of them then walked back into the village, cheering their heroes on for slaying the great beast. A while back in chapter 13, they saw this exact image in the room at the Hokage Tower. Epilogue. Hokage-sama, exclaimed a young Jonin as he rushed through the entrance. You have been summoned to the hospital. Your family line is about to grow right now. The Hokage hurried out of the tower and reached the hospital amid the chaos, saying, thank you, Konohamaru. A pink-haired medic yelled, Hokage-sama, get you ass in there, as she shoved the blonde into the hospital room, where a large-breasted woman was standing at the dark-haired woman's business end, he. He took her hand and said, Hinata, I'm here, Naruto-kun, I thought you were going to miss it. Before she almost crushed his hand, Hinata smiled slightly and said, come on, Angel, I'm the Hokage, so I don't miss important events. A blonde boy was brought to his parents wrapped in cloth a short while later, and there were tears in the air. Hinata grinned back at her husband and glanced at their child, saying, he's gorgeous. Hinata, perhaps he should have a sister to grow up with. She politely warned him, I agree, but don't bring that up again until I'm not in pain or I'll kill you. On the surface, he was unfrightened and gave her a quick forehead kiss. She nodded weakly and fell asleep, dreaming of the future, because the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. I won't, now get some sleep. You will have plenty of time with our son after you wake.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.